Thank you for joining us this evening. We will begin with a workshop item. Before us this evening, we have 339 North Street. This would be map 68, lot 13, and this looks like we have a sketch plan review for a proposed Starbucks presented by 5 Star Holdings LLC. Anything to add on this item, Ben, before we begin?
I do not. I think there's a number of materials that are attached to the agenda from the city engineer as well as the plan itself. But I think it'd be appropriate to hear from the applicant and discuss the application from there.
Great, thank you. Board members, any questions for staff at this time? Any conflicts or disclosures on this item? All right, great. And we have the applicant with us this evening. Go ahead.
Great, thanks. Eric Doobie, Trillium Engineering Group, representing 5 Star. And forgive me, I can't remember if we specifically had brought this in front of you. I know we worked on this with city staff and also with the PRDC committee, get their comments, and that was a little while ago. Part of the issue for us, or at least challenge, is with the MTA, the Turnpike expansion and all that's going on. So what we really did was take our time, worked with MTA specifically. Also, we're talking to MDOT at the same time about our traffic movement permit that will be required for this. And what we found out was that part of the DOT recommendation that hadn't been incorporated in the MTA plans was that they did not have a dedicated left-hand turn lane from essentially North Street into Lund Road. So that was one hiccup at the time that was happening. So at that point, we had basically a roundhouse meeting with all of the stakeholders, and then 5 Star at this point had decided to put money aside for that to kind of get ahead of it during construction to be able to put that left-hand turn in. So that's why it's built the way it is now. It was, again, a partnership with MTA, with DOT, and with 5 Star, and then they ended up revising that, and now that's why you have 3 lanes there, and ended up getting longer poles, things like that. So that was one of our big challenges that we've been working on in the past, call it 8 months. So the plan in front of you, well, we don't have one of the comments by city engineer was to add the current conditions. We've done that at this point with the MTA plans and added those in. That's not what you have in front of you, but we've done that since we've submitted that, which was over a month ago. And also the moratorium that was going to be placed with Lund Road and getting access, Lund Road, North Road, getting access to our site. We've gone ahead and worked on getting those utilities stubbed in, water, sewer, make sure that we don't impact that moratorium for a street opening and then cause a bigger issue on that. So the right-hand turn lane that is shown on our drawings, apparently MTA has gone and basically provided that already. So it restricts our left-hand turn movements out of the site on North Road, but allows us to exit from our site onto North Road safely. So that's been incorporated. I think last time we had talked, we were working on the movement of the site in general, interior with MDOT, and a couple things that we were looking at, including parking, besides just turning movements and things like that, is the fact that this establishment is not a sit-down establishment. So that's one of the things I'd like a little bit of feedback. I know we've talked to staff about this, but a little bit of feedback from yourselves about that. So the parking calculations required are for a sit-down restaurant and not necessarily for this. So what we're going to do is we'll bring this information to you we have similar establishments in the city of Saco, and be able to show what the parking spaces are similar on that. Because we do not meet the parking requirement for a sit-down restaurant. But again, we're mostly a drive-through restaurant, and we're also counter service, and then that's it. So no sit-down, no tables, and yeah, sure. So, so that's been one of the challenges on that, and would love to hear your feedback on that piece of it. Trying to think beyond that. I mean, we're a tight site, we know that, but that's why we have one of the smallest, basically modules that Starbucks makes. They understand that, and I think we've come up with a scheme that works for this site and gives us enough stacking power, and then the ability to be able to egress again on North Road, so we don't impact that traffic coming out onto Lund Road and to make that worse. So that's kind of summary of most of what we have in front of you, and then I can just go through. I know some of these comments from Adam Bliss, from engineer. We did receive these. We haven't responded to them formally, but I can just kind of go through them and answer some of these questions on the front end that may shed some light. So, you know, if I go down through, the applicant is where a detailed traffic analysis be required. And so at this point, we are submitting sections 1 through 6. This will require an MDOT traffic movement permit. We already are aware of that. We're submitting sections 1 through 6. We've been working with them for 6-8 months also, and I'm talking about specifically MDOT, with MTA involved. So the second question will be required, yes, and it's already in progress on that. Driveway for the right out exiting vehicles only. I think we've already talked about that. MTA has added that at this point, and that's in place. I guess I'm not quite clear about comment D. The immediate butter to the north has previously approached the city about creating access from Lund Road. We've gone back and forth on this. At this point, it's our understanding, working with staff, that they haven't submitted an actual active application, so there's not much we can do about that specific issue. I mean, we're trying to move forward on us and you know, on our lot, and then try to get access for what we have available, and pushing that, basically that entrance and exit as far away from the intersection as we possibly can. So that's why you have the scheme in front of you. Existing conditions and site plan, I think I just talked about that we've already updated that with the existing MTA plan that's shown that. Pedestrian sidewalk accommodation and connections should be provided. So we haven't shown it on this, but we agree, and so we're going to provide the sidewalk access and then walkway access from Lund Road, North Street into the site. We're aware that, turning movements. Yeah, we've already done a turning movement. That'll be included in your package. As far as what delivery vehicles, we're talking about box truck delivery vehicles. Again, it's a tight site, so we understand what's happening, but we do have that turning movement diagram, and that will be submitted as part of our next submission. Screening along the abutting residential property. Yes, we'll make sure we have landscape architect and do some appropriate screening and buffering to that residential neighbor. And then with regards to the drainage and watershed, we'll make sure that we comply with the standards that are laid out in front, and also that ties right into the existing 18-inch culvert that's underlying Lund Road. We'll have to work with a catch basin and be able to tie that and work with Adam on that specific technical issue. Exterior lighting will be cut-off lighting and essentially building mounted, but we'll make sure we comply with lighting standards on that. And then snow storage areas, we're not going to have a lot of room for snow storage in general, so we're going to have a snow removal plan for the site to be utilized during those events. So just don't have enough stacking power, especially with the limited parking that we have. So that's essentially, what we have in front of you, and love your feedback from where we are, and kind of help us to create our game plan for moving forward with the full site plan application. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Board members, any questions or feedback for the applicant? Remembering it's a sketch plan before us here. Jim, you want to start?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a few questions. One has to do with, like, how many employees do you expect might be working at any one time? And I'm asking that because I'm looking at the 10-plus parking spaces, and I imagine whoever's working there would need to use up some of those spaces. So do you have any thoughts on that?
We do. We're still researching that a little bit, but Patrick has some thoughts.
Hello, I'm Patrick Donahue from Five Star Holdings. This is a unique store. Is that better? This is a unique store. It's a concept that hasn't been done anywhere else. It kind of got conceived during COVID, where there was a lot less eat-in restaurants. And the tough thing with ordinances, sometimes they're out of date when it comes to what the new way of doing businesses is. Starbucks has come up with this platform where it's an express, where it's a drive-through, a DoorDash. They're anticipating usually 3 to 4 employees there at any point, a lot less than a normal store would have because there is no cafe. And that's been the biggest hurdle we've tried to do with overcoming is the parking situation there because it is a small lot. The store will be, right now we're building a store in Wells as well, and that's a cafe store. It's 2,800 square feet. This one will probably be around 1,400 square feet, so it's a lot smaller in footprint. There'll be a lot less employees. It will be a faster moving store. It's geared towards DoorDash and these new technologies that have kind of propped up after COVID that is a new way of doing business, and it's made sit-down cafeterias more something of the past. We've worked very closely with Maine Turnpike Authority. They actually use our property for their staging during the process. They're on board with everything that we're doing. We've already invested $150,000 in improving the intersection above and beyond what they already had. So that money's already been paid into this without this even happening. That's increasing some pedestrian traffic movement and also a left turning lane into that Lund Road, which they did not have in their original plan, and also enlarging a sign and a light pole and moving it further away from the intersection for further traffic improvements down the road. Is there any more questions about that? Did that answer your question?
Well, it does, somewhat. So if we imagine 3 or 4 employees and you have 10-plus spaces, based upon the research you've done, to be ready to, invest in this, do you think that the remaining 6-plus spaces will be enough for people just driving in and getting a quick coffee and then driving out? Or?
I do, and I wouldn't have put our money up so far if I didn't. I looked at some of the Dunkin' Donuts around that have very limited parking spots that have a lot more cafe seating. The one in Biddeford actually only has about 8 parking spots dedicated to itself and has quite a large cafe, and the traffic moves pretty smoothly through there. The Biddeford store, Starbucks, we built that and developed it. And that one was tight with parking. I think we had 14 parking spots for that, and that has a full seating capacity. And at first, when it was really busy, yes, there was some traffic problems, but after the newness wears off, you get to the normal traffic patterns, and it seemed to level out pretty good. Biddeford would be a good example of that, of how that leveled out.
And certainly appreciate what you've invested so far to with that left turn lane. I noticed that when I was coming in tonight, and with the lights and a right turn out only onto North Street makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, it looks like that traffic pattern works there. I mean, I certainly understand the city engineer's suggestion about, trying to have a shared entrance with your neighbor, if the neighbor ever, develops that site. But if the neighbor's not going to do that soon, it looks like what you've proposed makes a great deal of sense in terms
I
of...
can actually tell you that I agree with you on that. I approached that with the butter. The butter is a newer butter that purchased it, Noria gas stations. It is my understanding in communicating with them that they had no interest in doing any type of shared driveway, but it was more of a negotiating tactic to buy our land. And that was what it came down to. But it's my understanding, after speaking to the owner of the company 6 months ago, that they've put that on pause. I know there is an active application in the city, but it's dormant. It's been for 8 months or so. The reason why is that my understanding is they purchased a larger gas station group somewhere down the eastern seaboard, and that's got them kind of tied up at the moment. They're not looking to expand in this area right now. Another positive thing is I know a lot of people are very anti-corporation, big corporations coming into town doing things. The one thing that you can take some solace in is that the property will always be owned by us and maintained by a local owner. That's the partnership we have with Starbucks. It's local contractors, local excavation companies that do all the work. So it's not going out of state. The management and the day-to-day operations are run by Starbucks Corporation.
That's great. Thank you. That's all I had, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts from board members? Catherine?
Hi, I just have a question that Adam Bliss had written on 5 about walk-up customers to be served without conflicting with traffic. They're going inside to pick up like a normal Starbucks counter, right? It's not like they walk up to a window where they're outside.
Correct. That was the original, so the wording might be a little weird. When we started this process, we did a PDRC meeting in April, and they were doing walk-up windows. You can see in Portland, they had a walk-up window, and they had to go back for a modification. That kind of didn't survive. It was something that wasn't workable because people were crossing over drive-through lanes to get to a walk-up window. And with the weather being 90% of the time it's cold here in Maine, it just wasn't feasible. So we came up with this smaller cafe that's shrunk down that people can go into, but also not be crowded. We do have a plan that we're going to submit in that shows what their outlook should be. It's a cafe. It's not a cafe, but you walk in. There's area for people to stand and wait for their order and kind of congregate in a little area and then move their way out. So it's definitely not a sit-down restaurant or
So like
a walk-up window.
Sort of like the one that used to be at the mall, because there was like, I
Correct.
don't think there was any tables there. You just like walked in.
Correct.
Okay.
It's very much like if you go to the Dunkin' Donuts in Biddeford, it's kind of evolved into where they have a kiosk where you can go in and order off a kiosk, or you can go to the counter. But it's meant really for people to use the drive-through and for them to quickly come in and get their coffee and go, which is kind of the norm. There's not really too many of the Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. You see too many people sitting in for long periods of time anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, board members. You touched on some of the things. I'll go through my list that I had. Kind of the first thing that I had was the dumpster access, and I appreciate you'll be, well, actually, first of all, thank you very much for being proactive and reaching out and getting a lot of these intersection improvements done. Left turn lane, the exit right turn only, with all that being done, really puts you in a great position. Not only helping you, but I think it was a really wise idea to kind of push the DOT and MTA for that left turn lane into Lund Road, because not only your business, but the other businesses that are in there do have high volumes of traffic. And that left turn lane, I think, is really going to help flow through that intersection while those cars wait in queue to make that left turn. So
I appreciate that.
thank you for your contribution to that and pushing them along a little bit.
Thank you.
That's great for our community. Some on-site stuff that I picked up on, the dumpster access. Is that going to be coordinated such that it looks like the only access is to kind of go against your intended vehicular flow when the business is open? So if we can at some point hear what your plan is to have that hauled during non-business hours, or
I'd love to have a straight answer for you, but it's kind of a moving target at this point. But our goal is to do it so that it's like in less peak traffic. Probably, I would say in the evening would make more sense, or before opening in the morning.
So obviously it's a concern for you, and it will be,
It is.
for the board at some point too, to understand how we how you plan on doing that safely if it's done during business hours.
We plan on coordinating that more of either in the evening or before business hours.
Okay.
We realize this is a real tight site, and there's a lot of complexity to it. Also, with the dumpster enclosure, it's not going to be just a cheap dumpster enclosure. It's going to be one made out of Trex or that type of material. That is Starbucks' signature, is that they like a better product. So there would be a better dumpster enclosure that won't be your typical stockade fence.
I had snow storage, but you touched on that. You're going to be implementing a snow removal plan. The raised construction median with the moratorium, you guys touched, that's already done, and thank you for doing that before the moratorium. I had questions on the parking spaces, and obviously Jim touched on that. You'll feed back. I was wondering if you could clarify a little bit. Randy Ilian from the Maine DOT Traffic, his pre-scoping meeting, he had a minimum of 12 queued vehicles, internal lot and not on Lund Road. And he felt that that didn't work. Is he referring to the queued vehicles like in your drive-through lane and exiting out, or is he referring to the vehicles that will be queued on Lund Road to exit through the new traffic signal?
He's talking about our on-site, and that's been something that we're working on with Randy right now. Our next meeting we'll touch on. He wanted 3 lanes through there, and there just isn't enough room for there with the setbacks and everything. We're trying to keep as much green space as we possibly can, too. That's just more attractive. But he was pushing for a 3rd lane, but I think it's a little bit overkill, so that's something we're negotiating back and forth with them. We've worked really a lot closer with Maine Turnpike Authority. So they seem to be the driving bus on everything in that area because of the investment they're putting in.
Okay. So touching on maintaining some green space in the area, I had noted some concern or would like to have more detail as we move forward. Screening, because of your drive-through circulation, the headlights in the evening hours are facing towards the traffic signals and whatnot. What you might be putting in for some buffering, some low-profile bushes or something to try to prevent the glare from the people that are sitting at the traffic light on North Street.
I think a lot of that can be addressed with plants like arborvitaes that grow kind of quick. They also have to be maintained quite well too, because they can grow kind of wild. This is the point of the sketch meeting, is that we want to kind of get your input we wanted to be 75% the way down the road and try to get your input through some of these integral things that we've already thought about, but we haven't put that much energy into it until we figure out what you guys' thoughts are on that.
Absolutely, because we're going to be looking at some of our standards with opposing roads and buffering between them as that vehicle or traffic is coming around. We have cars that are at a traffic signal. We don't want those headlights kind of blinding the
We've already had those discussions about a plant like an arborvitae that could grow. That we also realize that, like, if you look at the Biddeford store, fencing sometimes is too intrusive. It makes it so that you can cause traffic problems because people can't see in and out. We want to keep the visibility, but we also want to have some protection there as well. So on that corner where you can see, I don't know if you guys have it on your plan, but you can see where Maine Turnpike Authority took some land from that corner. That area there is where we want to put the sign, where the sign is currently for the park that's behind it. We want to be able to dress that area up quite a bit, but we're just at the beginning stages of that part. The landscaping design kind of is at the tail end of the process. So our biggest concern really is the parking, and to push home the fact that even though the ordinances are in place, sometimes they're a little outdated for what the new ways of doing business is. I know, like, the Aroma Joe's that was built down by our office on Cascade Road has, I believe, 14 parking spots. You don't see anybody parked in them ever, because that's not a sit-down restaurant. So some of those ordinances are kind of in the gray area, and we're trying to show that this is more of an express drive-through like an Aroma Joe's and less like a Starbucks like you see on Main Street here.
Sure. Bringing us to that now, you've talked about needing a traffic movement permit because of the volume that you'd be putting through during your peak hours, and understanding that your business model is to move people through very quickly in the drive-in or DoorDash type application. Brings me to kind of the traffic issue. I'm questioning the effective queue length on Lund Road. Obviously, you guys have had this discussion, because it looks like there's approximately 220 feet from the intersection to your driveway. So obviously not a lot of cars that are fitting in that 220 feet. And if there's high volume leaving further down Lund Road, exiting, what does that mean for congestion, possibly difficulty entering your site, right? So I'd be looking for some updated traffic information, which I'm sure we'll get to when you move through your permit. And that brought me back to the shared driveway to the north, because we've had sketch plan review for your abutter neighbor, another proposed at the time, very high volume use. If that's even relatively in queue, I think that's, essential that we could try to get to some common ground where you both have a shared driveway. One, it could be beneficial to you to create some more on-site space, maybe for the parking that's needed, but to move the entering and exiting vehicles further away from the stop line on Lund Road, right? We're going to gain an additional 40 feet or so. So hopefully, it sounds like you've already reached out. You've started that conversation.
I can tell you that I 1,000% agree with you, and I'd like to come up with some sort of argument that a shared driveway wouldn't be beneficial to both, but I can tell you that it's not on our side, and we would even enter into some sort of contract saying that if they needed to do a shared driveway with us, that we would work with them on that. Because our biggest thing too is when they came up for their plan, we had problems thinking that they were going to have a truck gas station there for trucks, and we were afraid that it was going to block off our entrance. So we do know there's a problem there. We do want to work with our neighbor, but sometimes when you're dealing with bigger companies, they just don't play ball. They just don't want to talk to you, and they did use that as a negotiating tool to try to buy our property during it, and it just was nothing we were interested in. We wanted to have that shared entrance. So we would do everything, and I told Emily this, that we would do everything in our power on our end to do a shared driveway because it is beneficial.
So I don't know how much time you have, but for me, my opinion, so much of what's gone on here when we've looked at the sketch plan reviews for your neighbor and MDOT, we're doing projections on traffic analysis projections of how these new intersections are going to work. And here we are, we're only 42 hours into having a functional signal at that location. I think there needs a little time for our community to realize, okay, how effectively is this going to flow? And looking at like the peak traffic counts, when your report, you had 163 peak AM hourly traffic counts for the site, and then they went and assumed 70% of the bypass trips for the area. There's a lot of math that's being used on basically a conceptual intersection. The intersection hasn't really been tested in my eyes yet. And hopefully, as you move forward and we get towards your traffic movement permit, we can get some accurate counts with the signalized intersection functioning, right? So it might be very beneficial to your numbers to see what changes have taken place.
Well, to tell you something, and Eric, you might want to plug your ears, but sometimes these engineer guys sit in a room with no windows, and everything looks good on a plan, and we were really pitching that right turn out, and we got a lot of resistance from a lot of people there. But as we built these properties, we realized that traffic can't all be just congregated one direction. You got to kind of leach it out in different directions. So I think that right turn exit will help quite a bit in that traffic flow. You're right, we don't know what the intersection is going to be like because we've done a few of these in the past and had them be a lot better than we thought they'd be or be a lot tighter. But the stance I kind of have when it comes to Nori is that burden kind of needs to be pushed on to them when they decide to develop their property. We're doing everything we can to develop ours appropriately and meeting whatever ordinances and guidelines. I'd love to say I could work with them on it, but they have not been receptive so far.
And like I said, the traffic count that was used in some of your documentation was from September 24th of 2024, obviously right in the middle of construction. I mean, I live out in that area. I come through that way every day, a couple times a day, and I would intentionally avoid that area during construction just because of the amount of time it took, right? I mean, we had a lot of lane closures. So, like I said, for some of the traffic counts as we move forward, hopefully we can get some real-time data. And you may not be able to get into the required peak month for the off-season peak. I think that's June that they usually want one of those traffic counts. But if we could get some counts with how that intersection, as it was just recently turned on, how it functions, would be very helpful because obviously you've done a lot of work in this area. I think a lot of things could work, but I would like to have some solid data on how,
agree.
how the traffic flows.
We agree. It's kind of like you're flying in the dark right now, where you're trying to figure this stuff out. We started this process back last April, starting with the PDRC meeting, knowing that this was a moving target. So we've spent our time on this project, and in coordination, we've been building the one down in Wells. That one moved a lot faster because it was a lot more known. It was a Hannaford parking lot, and everybody knew what we were kind of doing. So we've taken our time on this one and really researched it. So we know it's a slower process, and we know there's some points we got to fill in the blanks. So we're definitely interested in getting that update as well.
Like I said, thank you for all the work you've done so far, and I think it looks
We're
like
really excited about the area. I think that's an area with very potential growth for the city. And like I told you, our office is in Saco. We do a lot of affordable housing even in Saco. So we're very mindful of the projects here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Any other thoughts from board members? Well, cumulatively, everyone hit my list of comments, so I won't go over them all, but I think parking, big picture ones, parking, I think a reduction, that seems appropriate. Movements, I share a lot of these thoughts. The big one, of course, I'm sure I'm surprised, but the traffic, touching back on that for a moment, the failing intersection already is very surprising to me, so it'd be nice to look forward to seeing that coming together, seeing how those numbers may be revised or whatnot, because
We feel very confident in that intersection with the lighting, with the turn signals, with the pedestrian movement. That Maine Turnpike Authority has done an excellent job on that project. You couldn't ask for a better partner through this process. They've been great with us. And their expertise is far beyond my abilities or any of ours, that they know this stuff a lot better than us, and it's been good to have them as a guiding tool through this, too.
Well, that's good to hear. It's just of course, we get the report, and then there's failing intersection hasn't opened yet. So if it's appropriate that gets revised as part of the next application.
I will speak with them and see if we can get some sort of letter from them about some clarification on that.
Sure. Other than that, I didn't have any other comments. Anything else? All right, great.
Thank you very
gentlemen.
much for your time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the Planning Board and valued community representatives, I welcome you all to this evening's assembly of the Saco Planning Board. As chairman, it is my privilege to convene this gathering dedicated to the thoughtful planning and development of our community. Today, we come together with a shared commitment to shaping the future of our city in a manner that reflects our values, respects our heritage, and fulfills the needs of our residents both now and in the future. Our agenda tonight contains important matters, each requiring our careful consideration, expertise, and collaboration. As we engage in our deliberations, let us remember the profound impact these decisions will have on the lives of all, keeping in mind we're residents like you. It is our duty to maintain transparency, fairness, and inclusivity in our proceedings, ensuring that the voices of all are heard and respected. Together, we must embrace the responsibility entrusted to us by our community, working diligently and thoughtfully to chart a course that fosters growth, prosperity, and harmony. With that, I would like to call this meeting of the Tuesday, November 4th, Saco Planning Board to order. I look forward to the productive discussions and meaningful outcomes that lie ahead. Thank you. With us this evening, myself, Matt Provenzel, the chair of the board, and to my left, our vice chair, Joyce Leary Clark, and planning board members Jeff Bruscio, Catherine Paolini, and to my right, Jim Molier. We have two planning board members, Carrie Lynn Lane and Camille White, that are absent with us this evening. And with that, we have our planning staff members, our interim city planner, Ben Smith, our planning compliance manager, Lisa Harmon, and with us this evening, joining us as well, is our new city planner, Charles Tettleman. Did I say that correct? Thank you, sir. And our Ward 5 Council Liaison, Phil Hatch. Our first item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes, and it looks like we have our October 21st draft minutes will be available next meeting, if I understand correctly. See some nods, thank you. Our next item is our Planning Board Public Hearing Guidelines. This is a document that we've put together. It is digital and hard copy for those that are looking for it, and what it does is it outlines our process of our public hearings. If anyone has any questions on that document, please reach out and we will answer those the best we can. And with that, our next item, we will move to our public comment period. This is an opportunity for any members of the public to come before the board and speak on general planning items. If there are any applications before the board this evening, please wait until those items come to, till we get to those. But if there are any general questions, comments, please feel free to come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. We will collect comments and address them accordingly.
Good evening. My name is Inga Brown. I live at 161 Simpson Road. I'm making some comments this evening on item E, the completeness review for the ecology school at 184 Simpson Road. There is no public hearing on that item tonight, so I would like to just add some public comments to the record. I will let my letter that I sent to the public record yesterday, I believe it's probably in the after the fact packet, and I can understand that the board has not perhaps had a chance to review it. At the conclusion of my comments, I would like to come forward to the dais and provide you a paper copy. In my letter, I had attached the hourly traffic minimums chart that is required by the ecology school, as approved by the ecology school, and is approved by the third-party planner, Ms. Diane Morabito. And I'm going to give you the accompanying memorandum from 2022 from the traffic consultant that goes along with that traffic chart. I think that will be helpful, and I'd like to put that into the public record. I would urge the board to table this item tonight. This application is not complete. I have supported in my letter numerous reasons for why that is true. This is an after the fact request for an extension. The condition number 9 of the site plan approval has expired. This is an expired condition. The full language of condition number 9 was also included in my letter. And the full language of condition number 9, I'd like staff to note this as well, has been copied and pasted so many times that the full condition number 9 does not often end up in your packets, and staff does not often include it. I believe it is in the findings of fact, but I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the full condition number 9, if I can find it, just a minute. Full condition number 9 is as follows. The applicant will implement the innovative traffic management solutions as noted in the traffic impact study. The applicant will work with the City of Saco and Maine Department of Transportation to design and construct a left-hand turn treatment at Simpson Road as warranted by the ecology's current programming by November 1st, 2025, which during design and construction, monitoring of traffic volumes by an independent third party shall continue. The applicant shall amend its programming to ensure that vehicle trips generated by the ecology school stay under warrant volumes. And the condition continues with that the traffic quarterly reports will be submitted to the board. It's a very lengthy condition, and I simply would like that full condition to be part of the record. My concerns about this application, in my letter I noted the traffic reports are not included. There is no financial guarantee or capacity of financial capacity for the applicant. I won't go through all of the minutia at this point, but many people, there have been some submittals in the staff packet, in letters submitted to the public record this evening of the significant financial delinquency of this applicant. And in your capacity as the planning board, financial guarantee, financial capacity is one of the standards for you to review. The record is clear. This board has given 2 extensions previously in 2020 and 2022. This would be the 3rd extension for an original site plan condition of approval from 2018. The record is complete and full related to the need for the turn lane. I am alarmed that the applicant continues to attempt to dismiss the need for the turn lane, and that traffic conditions have changed so that the ecology school is not responsible for the turn lane. But it is clear in this application, in this site plan, that studies in 2018 and 2022, I will wrap up my comments, the turn lane is warranted due to the traffic that the school is adding to the roadway. Please be very clear in making sure you understand the factual record of this proposal. Lastly, I would draw your attention to another letter submitted by Mr. Michael Dalem that outlines the questions related to the legal framework for you to even entertain this project this evening. The city has not completed its contract zone project review. City councilors have asked repeatedly from staff for this item to come back to the council so that individual contract zones from before 2021 could be more closely reviewed and analyzed between council and staff. This application should not be heard this evening because of the legal questions that have not been answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have my hand out. May I still do that, please? My apologies.
Yes, can you make sure staff gets it, please?
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. It's Kelly Archer, 185 Bradley Street. I echo everything that Ms. Brown just said. And I would also like to thank the site walk this morning at 42 Ferry Road. I do want to make sure, prior to a submittal from the Conservation Commission, who wasn't there today, we do need to have them weigh in on this particular property. They do, I believe, need to do a site walk. And there was one critical corner that was completely missed. And I do warrant even the planning board members to go back. There will be pictures forthcoming, and it is behind number 36, 32, and 36, which was the Seal Rock bottling building garage, is right there. Right behind it is where unit number 9 was going to go. When we ended up coming around the road to go to the clubhouse, to the end of that road, we never took the left. That is having the 9 and 8 right there. I was amazed. We need to, you need to focus in on that one corner of that property. We did, and thank you to Mr. Brochur for bringing up the other corner of near the pond, and also the abutter of 29B, and then across his driveway. I understand that your issue is the subject property of 42 Ferry Road, and it's germane to that. However, you will receive pictures, and you did receive them in April on a sketch plan of Mr. Conlon's when he wanted to do his project on that property back last year. Those pictures will be forthcoming again. That will show you how much, when you think of the depth of that pond, it comes up above the dock, and you can't see the dock. That's how much it floods. I was the broker on record. I am retired as a real estate broker. I was the broker on record for Georgia Bell, and she lives at 29A Old Orchard Road, which you have to go through Seal Rock in order to get to 29A and B. It was like a landlocked, but they were able to go through the condo association to get to those 2 back lots. So that does flood. And I sold that in 2010. And so there's a lot of consideration back there. There's other information that is forthcoming that the applicant did not put through in the last couple meetings. So that will be forthcoming before the 18th. But that one corner behind that garage, boom, 2 units. You absolutely need to see that. Please have the Conservation Commission walk the land with the applicant, go with them again to look at that corner, and then have them come forward with a report for the November 18th hearing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other participants, we will continue to our next item this evening. Our next item is item 7, and this is our applications for review and public hearings. Our first item on this agenda is item 7A. This is 37 Woodman Avenue, map 35, lot 25-1. And this is a conditional use review this evening for a family daycare. And we have a public hearing and application of completeness review this evening. Anything to add on this item, Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a conditional use in the medium-density residential zone. I recommend that the board make a finding of completeness prior to opening the public hearing, but that is something the board should discuss next. Thanks.
Great, thank you, sir. Board members, any questions for staff at this time? Any conflicts or disclosures on this item? All right, great. We have the applicant with us this evening. If you want to give us a little presentation of your proposal here.
Sure. My name is Alicia Sissio. I am at 37 Woodman Avenue, and I look forward to hearing your questions because I've never done this before, and I'm happy to be here. So, I submitted an application a couple of months ago for conditional use after learning of some really dire need for childcare across the Saco, Biddeford, Old Orchard area. And I had been working in the corporate space for almost 20 years, and it simply isn't who I am. You may have seen me out in the community. I'm an avid volunteer with Saco Main Street. I had started some women's initiatives in my corporate space, and just really look to elevate women-owned businesses, but small businesses, and our entire community as much as possible. So when I saw this need, I thought, well, this is prime time for me to say goodbye to corporate and open my heart and home to the children that really need my support. Truly, my husband, Michael, and I, who is carting around one of my older children tonight, we moved to Saco in 2018 and were welcomed with abundance with hundreds of children in our neighborhood on Woodman Avenue. It is a fantastic neighborhood, and we are lucky to live on the older side of Woodman Ave, where there is a lovely cul-de-sac just around the bend. We're one house away from the cul-de-sac. We have ample space that is behind our home that abuts up to the corridor that enters into Old Orchard Beach. And we have enough space to allow us the opportunity to care for the kids that are in our community. So I'm really looking to you for your questions this evening to see how I might bless you, be able to move this along and really go forward with the licensing process with the state of Maine to care for up to 10 to 12 children in my home, ages 6 weeks to 5 years, but also opening the doors for some opportunities for parent night outs up to once a month, opening my doors until 9 p.m. for the community. What questions do you have for me?
Great, thank you. Board members, thoughts, questions? Jim, you want to start?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for all the photographs. You gave us photocopies of photographs, and that was a piece that I couldn't quite understand how it all fit together, but you did a fine job with the pictures, and I see that you have locks on the pool and the hot tub, and that all looks very safe. I was somewhat surprised, although maybe I shouldn't have been, that you're using most of your first floor of your house for this facility, but it looks like it has plenty of room and should be quite nice. A couple of questions I have, though, is I know you're initially going to try to do all this work yourself. Mm-hmm. How many children do you expect to have, and at what point might you hire employees, and then do you think you have parking for them?
That is a fantastic question. So yes, under the Maine state guidelines, it was recently updated earlier this summer to allow for up to 4 children that are not your own children to be cared for in one's home, at which point they need to be licensed by the state and then can care for up to 10 to 12 depending on the space within your home. Right now, I'm caring for 2 3-year-old boys, and I will have 2 part-time infants starting within the next month. So that will bring me up to my 4, after which time I look to the January, February timeframe to be able to meet the licensing guidelines. I've already met with the licensor for the state, and I have a consultant as well, just to make sure that we are fully safety compliant with all of their regulations. I can only care for up to 6 children legally by myself at any given time, and that would require a part-time or full-time employee. So I would be looking to 1, maybe 2 staff members eventually, but we do have a very large lot for parking. We have our 2-bay garage. We have 100 and, I wrote it down. Bear with me for just a moment. We have a 70-foot by 24-foot driveway and drop-off area that also does not include a 30-foot by 12-foot. That abuts the neighbor's yard, so that can't be considered a driveway. But that will be the turnaround spot for parents. So in addition to that, we do have on-street parking. However, I don't think we're going to need to utilize that. Having 6 to 10 families maximum, they also stagger their drop-off time, anytime between 7:30 and 10 o'clock in the morning, And then pickup time is between 3 and 4:30, unless they're part-time, in which case they leave at noon. So parking I don't foresee to be an issue, and staffing will be forthcoming depending on the need and the licensing process.
And so you feel comfortable that your driveway and the turnaround space will be sufficient for you, even if you have a couple of employees who could also park maybe in front of the garage, but you'll still have plenty of room for parents to come in, pick up their kids, turn around, and be able to get out safely on the street?
Yeah, the traffic is pretty minimal on our street. And where we are right at the cul-de-sac, you can enter, but you can't come back. So they would also have the option, if they needed to or wanted to exit right out of our driveway and go around the cul-de-sac and then head back up. Or they could go through the cul-de-sac and travel through Woodman Avenue, which brings you through to a park and a pond and all the other places that people love to go and visit.
And my last question has to do with the septic system design. I know nothing about septic systems except when they don't work and you need to get them fixed. But are you aware whether or not the septic system you have at the property would be sufficient for the number of children you're expecting to have there?
Currently, yes. And it also is age dependent. So my 3-year-olds don't even quite use the toilet. So I am requesting the use of an additional trash can. However, the septic that we have is based on a 3-bedroom house, which is for 6 adults. We have myself, my husband, and our 2 school-aged children currently, and that doesn't even meet the minimum. We are going to have an additional inspection this Friday, just to be sure, because of the age. It was a 1988 design and build. So we're going to check to see how it is standing. The former folks who lived there, it was 2 adults and their child, so they weren't meeting the maximum for the system either. However, it's been almost 40 years. So we'll see what the inspection has to say, and at that time, we'll see if anything needs to be replaced or if there's a new layout that needs to be designed. Where we're a small family center, it's not actually a facility by the state guidelines. So I'm not concerned, but I also am not familiar with septics until they go awry.
So those are all my questions, but I mean, otherwise, it looks like the application to me is complete, but thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions about application completeness from board members? Joyce?
Well, of course, I saw on the application completeness checklist the note about septic system too, so I'm glad you're addressing that, because it sounds like it's one of those things that the city wanted some more information about. My only thing, and I'm really not sure this is within our purview, your deed says that the property shall only be used as a single-family residence, and no commercial enterprise of any nature or description shall be conducted on the premises. I mean, that makes it sound like you can't have a business there. Have you talked to anyone, gotten any legal advice about this? I hate to have you start up and then be shut down by a disgruntled neighbor.
Absolutely. So I saw that clause as well and was taken back. I've already run a business out of my home that was granted by the city. So that I honestly don't know. I do know that my neighbors all have children and have all donated to the cause. So I don't really know.
And the fact is, I mean, when we have a public hearing, abutters will be notified of this. Abutters have been notified of this, so guess we'll find out.
We will.
Thank you, Joyce. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, obviously, thank you very much for everything you provided at this point. I, too, agree with Jim, starting with the rear yard. The photos, when I saw it, there was a pool and a hot tub, and you were still doing a play area. The photos were very helpful, but Could you provide, moving forward, the height of the fence that's there? It doesn't look, like is it a full 36 or?
Nope, it's 48.
It's 48, because it looks, in the pictures, it looks a little skewed, like it might be a little shorter than that. So we're 48 inches for the fence.
Yeah, that's a licensing requirement.
So I had questions on the hours of operation, because your memo, which was very well drafted, by the way, thank you, your passion for what you're doing. You said Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5 was your normal operating, and then that up to 1 weekend a month, or 1 day a month to 9. So that was what you kind of touched on at the podium, is like a date night out, family night out, allow your parents to go a little.
Yeah, I think about, holiday shopping. Parents want to go, they don't want to have their kids. Leave them with Miss Alicia.
Okay. And then you had a maximum number of children you were looking to be able to care for was 12. And so what you had said, that you would be allowed 6 as one adult, and you would need to have a second employee, so you'd have a minimum of 2 people on staff during the time you had 6 people there.
Correct.
That brought me into what Jim touched on for the parking or the drop-off. I don't know if you currently store your vehicles in your garage and plan on doing that. That would be good information, because we need to anticipate there's going to be a staff member or 2 parked in your yard. Basically looking for turning radii for cars to turn around within your driveway so they're not backing back out onto Woodman. I didn't think there was quite enough room, but oftentimes we've been able to have staff and a representative from Public Works go out and help you kind of map that out, just so that if you do need to park one of your staff members in front of your garage, they'll give you the appropriate 9 by 18 space, and then how your cars will back around that, or not be able to pull up into that if there are 2 cars. If you have 2 staff members, we're going to lose obviously 18, 20 feet from your garage. Will they have enough room, and then can you make provisions for a backing spot for them to turn around within your yard?
Yes, so I want to say it's page 19, I'm not entirely sure. There is a back-out plan with a photo. So my car is housed in the garage. My husband is not home during the day, so that is an open spot. The way that I have it drawn out is that folks would enter on the left side of my driveway, which would leave the front, the very front right corner for a staff member to be there. And then the 30 by 12 backup space to exit out then if you're looking at my home on the right side. I'm happy to have somebody come out, though, if that is something that you are concerned about. I don't know for say when that staff person will be hired. But
I just think in our due diligence, it's important that we make sure that there's the ability for people to turn around safely within your yard. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh, I don't know if the width is, but that's not my expertise. So I think you had a lot of the information, and if we could have staff help before we get to final, that would be helpful. And I too did touch on the septic design. I think that's very important, and I understand that your argument was that, hey, many of the children aren't even going to be using the facilities, but it's all the support equipment that you're washing, increased load, because your system was designed for 270 gallons a day, and now you're doing this basically commercial entity, right? You can be doing a lot more laundry.
Nope, not a lot more laundry.
So everything's going to be disposable that you use to prepare their snacks and...
No, we don't run our dishwasher very often at all. And they do have a singular plate, but our dishwasher just doesn't get full to begin with. We also don't do their laundry. There is one load that will be done, but that is just a load of blankets. But we don't do the majority of laundry at our facility. And per licensing standards, anything that is soiled has to go home with the families. We are not to touch it or do any disposal work there.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just looking forward to, obviously, you've already on track. You have an evaluation of your septic design. Those were the questions that I had, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
There was a question that was brought up, about hazardous waste materials, that in the narrative on number 7, within the narrative, there won't be anything stored or housed or brought in or anything like that. So I'm not sure if another form needs to be submitted for that or if that's sufficient within the application.
Can you point to that item again? Can you, said item 7?
Yeah, within the narrative, the very last couple of pieces of paper within the application, it was on the completeness checklist.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Any other questions for board members? Or from board members, excuse me?
Mr. Chair, this is, I think, also scheduled for a public hearing.
Yes, sir. Once we find the application complete, we can move to a public hearing.
Well then, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we find the application complete.
Thank you for the motion, Jim.
I'll second.
Second by Joyce, thank you. Jeff?
Discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to touch base. I mean, I didn't catch, and I'm glad that Joyce caught that on the deed. Is there right title and interest here to be able to do that? How do we move forward if by deed restriction that this use is not permitted?
So that's a great question. I'm glad you asked.
I have the answer.
Well, if the applicant has right title interest to the property, and the city, as far as the city ordinance goes, it's allowed, and we're reviewing it per the city ordinance. So that's, the deed restrictions are, that's a civil or private matter. That it doesn't affect the review that we have, because the applicant has right title and interest to the property to submit the application, and it's allowed in the zoning. We're conditional use. We're going through the process in our ordinance. So that's, anything to add, Joyce, to that? But that's
No, I think that's exactly right.
That's my understanding.
That she does in fact own the property. She's shown us the deed that's recorded in the registry of deeds that she owns the property. There are restrictions in the deed to, I think it's 2037, but that's a civil matter between, the homeowners association or the developer. I don't know who has the right to enforce those provisions, because
We don't even
because
have
it's
one.
not our, that's not part of what we're reviewing.
sure, because the city.
It's just worth pointing out, because you don't want to go through the whole process and then find out that you're not allowed to do it because of the restrictions in your deed. It has nothing to do with the city.
Right, the city doesn't enforce deed restrictions.
Right.
Yeah.
We've had this before when we were talking about another development where there was a question about whether duplexes were permitted
Well,
in that development, and it was the same thing where, well, those are potential deed restrictions that don't affect our review.
I guess I'm just having a little bit of a hard time because felt like we were getting as a board on another application some solace that there would be deed restrictions that like ADUs were going to be permitted. And now we're saying that, hey, you can do this entire subdivision, saying no ADUs are permitted, and then we're going to go and backtrack and say, well, you have right title interest and state statute allows it, so we're going to review it anyways. Where are we protecting the people who bought into that neighborhood with their deed restriction? We have to let them go battle it out in court after?
No, but this is great, because we did talk about that, but that's why we've been adding it to our conditions of approval and findings of fact, and we've been hitting it twice. It's
Okay.
a deed restriction, and we've also been adding it as a condition of the site plan or the subdivision approval. So that's how we've been doing it, because for exactly the reason you just described. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions from board members? Any additional discussion? Okay, so motion made by Jim, second by Joyce to find the application complete. Those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
No.
Catherine?
Yes.
A vote yes. Motion passes 4-1. No waivers.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we open public hearing.
Thank you for the motion, Jim.
I'll second.
Second by Joyce, thank you. Any additional discussion on the motion to open a public hearing for this item? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0 to open the public hearing. If anyone is with us this evening to speak on this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and we will collect comments and address them appropriately.
Mr. Chair, seeing no members of the public choosing to speak, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion on closing the public hearing on this item? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0. All right, any other questions, comments, or concerns from board members? I think
Mr.
we...
Chair? Oh,
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I do think we need to have some additional information about the ability to turn around in the driveway without people backing out onto Woodman Ave. I realize it's a quiet street, but you don't want people backing out, especially if there are other people coming in to pick up or drop off kids. And that seems like a fairly simple task to get someone out there to do some measurements.
Sure. Catherine?
Thank you. Would it also be appropriate to get a letter that the septic system is adequate after the inspection on Friday?
Yep, I agree. Any other thoughts? Jeff?
Since we're going to be waiting for the additional information, is it possible that we could have staff just have an opinion from the city solicitor to make sure that we are truly able to approve that with that deed restriction?
Sure.
Just a letter of comment. Thank you.
Any final thoughts?
Mr. Chair, I hope the staff has an opportunity to also provide us with findings of fact and conditions of approval associated with this conditional use.
Jeff, go ahead.
Well, I was just kind of hoping that we might be able to have,
Let's move those flowers, shall we?
thank you.
There's Jeff.
I was
Okay.
just kind of hoping that we might be able to get the next available date that would be appropriate to have this on the agenda. It sounds like the inspection for the sewer is going to, or the septic's going to be very quickly. If we can get a date, then we could make a motion requesting continued review to that date, directing staff to do our draft finding the facts. I think we could wrap it all up if staff could give us the appropriate date.
Thank you, Jeff. That's okay, you can,
We were shuffling papers. I
Yeah, of
apologize,
course.
Mr. Chair. We're looking at the November 18th. That would be the very next meeting of the board, and there are several public hearings scheduled for that meeting. It appears to be a full agenda to me. The following meeting would be December 5th, 3rd? December 2nd. December 2nd would be the meeting after the November 8th, and that meeting the meeting agenda for the December meeting is open, much more open than the very next meeting, which may not be enough information, may not be enough time to provide the additional information requested regardless. So I would recommend the December meeting.
Thank you. I support that I'd like to see it on the December, make sure we have enough time. There's only a few items here. We talked about the parking, movement, septic, clarity on the deed, and an opportunity for staff to draft findings of fact and condition of approval. So I think that's fine. Sure.
With that, Mr. Chair, I would move that we continue review of this item to December 2nd, 2025. Direct staff to coordinate with DPW to evaluate the driveway turning movements, give the applicant time to submit septic inspection reports, and staff to have legal counsel review the deed restriction and what our scope of approvals can be, as well as draft conditional findings of facts and conditions of use.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0. Great, thank you. All right, continuing this evening, we will move to our next item. This is item 7B. This is 63 Watson Mill Road, map 111, lots 9-5 and 9-7. This is a preliminary subdivision and site plan review. We have before us an application of completeness, and this is for an extension to an existing private way for a subdivision in the RC zoning district. Anything to add on this item, Ben, before we begin?
No, this item is really a review for completeness. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ben. Board members, any questions for staff at this time? Any conflicts or disclosures on this item? All right, and with that, go ahead.
My name is Austin Fagan. I'm here with BH2M representing Scott McCrum of VCJ Properties. So this project started back in 2022 when Scott bought the property. Went through some permitting of an existing, it was previously permitted, bought the project, the approval had lapsed. So BH2M started working with him to get this project approved. In 2024, specifically August of 24, we worked out a plan with the staff to approve a 1,063 linear foot private way. That was to serve an existing lot, remaining land, and an outsale lot. Since that time, the road has been built. One lot has been sold off, but Scott is now looking to provide lots for his children, the two at the end, 3 and 4 as it's shown on the plan. So in order to achieve that, we're proposing an approximately 120 linear foot extension of the private way, which would provide additional frontage to split what would be one additional lot over what he could do with the existing frontage. The, city engineer has provided us with comments, of which all of them are pretty minor in nature, mostly pertaining to stormwater questions, which I won't bore you with those. We'll take care of those with staff. There was a comment, number 1, in the memo from October 27th, asking about clarification on serving a maximum of 4 lots for a private way. Section 11 of Chapter 230 calls out that only 4 new lots are allowed on any private way. The lot that I think is in question right now is shown on the plan as Penley. That was a lot that has frontage on Watson Mill Road, originally had a driveway off of Watson Mill Road, and as part of the previous approval for the existing private way, staff had requested that a driveway be put onto Memory Lane in order to mitigate any conflicts with a driveway and a private way being so close. So technically, with the lots that the applicant is proposing, there are 4 new lots, and 1 lot was existing and is just using it as more or less access to their property, not using it for frontage or anything of that nature. And if it makes the board comfortable, we can reach out to code enforcement in order to just get a verification on that interpretation of the code. Other than that, it is a relatively straightforward project. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any questions for the applicant? Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Austin. Your applications are usually very, very detailed and straight and forward, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I did have one question, though. In your site plan application, we're talking about the 16-acre parcel, and with specifically to the number of acres that will be developed, the application, I think it's on page 31 of 135 in our packets, shows that there's 1.5 acres of development. But you stated that there's no permitting from the Maine DEP if there's less than 1 acre of disturbance, and I didn't see an application from the Maine DEP. So how did the numbers work out? Because it looks like your full build-out was like 59,530 square feet, which is like 1.36 acres.
So what was previously approved by the DEP was a stormwater PBR, which was for a disturbance of over an acre. So stormwater permitting with the DEP is required when it is over 1 acre of impervious area, or I believe it's 3 acres of developed area. This project originally was under 20,000 square feet of impervious area. This extension will put it just over 20,000 square feet. So we do need to meet the drainage plan requirements for the city, but we do not have any additional stormwater permitting since this is just an extension of a permit that has already been approved and built out.
Okay. And then there was some language that talked about the credited area. The wetland crossings are exempt.
Correct. So that is an exemption that is allowed within Chapter 500 of the Maine DEP statutes. So any areas of a roadway that are built through a wetland, obviously when we're going through a wetland, it's very difficult. The more you fill it, the more you're going to impact it. So they give an exception in order to, mitigate fills within the wetlands, which is the protection that they're trying to provide. If you have an open stormwater conveyance culvert underneath them, you do not need to consider that impervious area towards your treatment credits. And that is, so in terms of some of the questions that came from the city engineer, this project was approved under the previous engineer, and it was allowed that we could use the linear exception, it's called, which is another statute in the DEP, which allows you to do a 75% treatment of impervious area and 50% of the developed area. So more or less what is happening is we're just utilizing credits that the Department of Environmental Protection allocates to kind of allow less impact to natural resources. Because, you could build it up more and get the water where it needs to go, but you're going to impact natural resources more.
My final question was, there was a comment with regards to, I think it was Lot 2, if it met the square footing building requirements with the wetlands that are present.
Yes.
Have you had any correspondence with the code officer to determine if that does meet that requirement?
Yes, I have. Or better yet, I have calculated it based on the density allocations for the city. And there is over 82,000 square feet for that lot. So that does meet the requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members for the applicant? Jim?
Jeff caught all my questions. except for one. I think the city engineer mentioned he had a concern that the Hammerhead turnaround was too shallow. I think that was on page 4 of his comments. Well, you only do two pages. I'm not quite sure where I read that.
I can, well, how about this? I don't know where it is either, but if it is too short, that is a pretty minor revision. We can add a few feet to it if needed, and it should be a quick turnaround on a fix like that.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts from board members?
Mr. Chair, just to move things along, I'll move that we find the application complete.
I would second that motion.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Jeff. Any additional discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes?
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0 to find the application complete.
Thank you.
And, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we schedule a public hearing for December 2nd.
I'll second.
Thank you for the motion, Jim, and the second, Joyce. Any additional discussion to schedule a public hearing for December 2nd on this item? Jeff?
Would we want to, either in this motion, capture, are we going to get feedback from codes to just to determine that they too agree that it's 4 lots, not 5, being served from a public way?
I don't think that's a problem at all.
Okay.
Catherine?
There was also a question in the memo about a site walk.
Sure.
We wanted to do that.
Board members? Site walk?
Sounds good? Yeah.
Get some head nods? Sure.
Yep.
So, December 2nd, public hearing. I think site walks that morning of tends to work fairly well. Some nods. Jeff?
I agree. I tend to like site walks just before, but like today, we brought up a very valid point. Oftentimes, we like feedback from Conservation Commission. I think that puts a big stress on them to, meet and kind of go over and digest their findings and then draft us a report. So if we were to do December 2nd, can we invite Conservation Commission, but then move our public hearing out to the 18th, I think it was? So that gives them 2 weeks to then go over their data and draft us a report?
Sure. You,
If I may.
you're ahead of me. You're ahead of me, but go ahead.
So as part of the previous approval, this was also reviewed for, third-party wetland peer review, things of that nature. So this whole property has been reviewed through many different routes. I definitely agree on giving them adequate time in order to respond, but it is something that they may have already seen. So just wanted to put that out there. Not that it may change anyone's mind. So
Sure, thank you. With that, I agree. I don't know if we need to, my question to staff is going to be, can we keep the December 2nd meeting, and can we do when's our next 18th, November 18th site walk? And then give them time. We can move up our site walk. I guess I'd like to move up the site walk. Since there's room, it sounds like, on our December 2nd agenda.
Just looking at the agenda, the December 2nd meeting would be the best for the hearing, and if the applicant does want comments for that, we can do it the day of the 18th, if that works for everyone.
Sure.
I don't know how we should coordinate with the Conservation Commission, but I think for the purposes of getting prepared for that December 2nd public hearing, would be best to do that on November 18th.
Okay, let's do that. I think Lisa could assist with that as well. So if that works for board members, we'll do a site walk and the applicant site walk on the morning of November 18th. We'll invite the Conservation Commission along for that walk, and we will request a report from them for our December 2nd meeting. Seeing some head nods here. Everyone's checking their schedule.
Yeah, and I just point, Austin, I don't think we had a site walk for this previously.
No, so there was no site walk. This was a staff approval the last time around because it didn't involve subdivision. So it has gone through the mechanisms of like third-party review and everything of that nature. But yeah, absolutely no site walk was done.
Sure. Okay. So motion made to schedule a public hearing for December 2nd. And with that, Jim, are we adding to that motion a site walk on November 18th with a invitation to the Conservation Commission for their report?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll amend my motion to include all of that.
Great, thank you. And Joyce, you're comfortable with that amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Any additional discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
A vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0.
Thanks for
Great,
your time.
thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
What time on November 18th for the site walk?
Sorry, that's a great question. I think 8 a.m. has been working well.
Yep.
8 a.m.
Great.
See you bright and early.
Great, thank you.
Just, can we, obviously, the existing private way has been constructed and paved. Is that where we'll plan on all parking, off-road on your private way?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
perfect.
It has a hammerhead turnaround down at the end, so we can park around there and have a spot to turn around, and should only be, like I said, a 120-foot walk into the woods where the road will go, so should be pretty straightforward.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, continuing along here, our next item on our agenda this evening is item 7C. This is a application of completeness review for a proposed private road in the West Residential Zoning District. This is along Jenkins Road, Remick Drive, and Sumana Lane. This is map 90, lot 24-2. Anything to add on this item, Ben?
Only that, again, this is an extension of an existing private way for an additional lot, and the focus of the discussion tonight should be on the completeness of the application relative to that. You'll see in the staff memo from Lauren Forte, there's a few questions at the bottom of that first page that the board should discuss, including relative to a site walk for this project as well. Thanks.
Great, thank you, sir. Board members, any questions for staff at this time? Any conflicts or disclosures on this item? All right, great, we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Tim Mishu, a Teradyne consultant, speaking on behalf of Saco LLC for the proposed private road and residential lot split off Remick Drive in Saco. Remick Drive is off Jenkins Road, as people know. The 16-acre parcel is the remaining land of the Remick Drive private way project that Teradyne completed and was approved by the planning board in 2019. Part of the submission included property deed and road maintenance agreements that are currently occupied by the applicant. Remick Drive, in that time, in the 219, is an 18-foot private drive, approximately 800 feet in length, terminates in a hammerhead. There are currently 3 residential lots with access easements off Remick Drive. Currently, The last lot was completed and was recorded in August 21st, 2020. So it's outside of the 5-year window for a lot split. So this application is simply for extension of a private road and a lot split meeting ordinance requirements for 30-acre minimum unsewered property. That's really all we're asking for on this application. The project parcel, existing parcel, contains a 50-foot right-of-way that contains a sewer utility that is connected to the municipal sewer system in Jenkins Road, and that serves the Fogg Estates subdivision, which abuts the property to the south. One of the residential lots has a private sewer system that connects to Jenkins Road municipal sewer as well. 2 of the remaining lots are just unsewered and have wells. Going for the new project, the project site is relatively flat across most of its way, and then the back portion of the parcel contains a large wetland complex. And there is a man-made drainage ditch that bisects the site that takes drainage basically from the Jenkins Road right-of-way down towards the Turnpike right-of-way. And that drainage ditch was analyzed back in like 2015, and it was determined by the DEP that it was man-made at that time. The proposed Sermana Lane, and we're looking to extend a road off Remick Drive, and when measured from Jenkins Road, it's 831 feet, which is below the 1,000 feet minimum. So for this private road, we're asking for less than 1,000-foot private way with an additional lot. So there would be a total of 4 lots off the private way, meeting ordinance requirements. Then we propose to put a 24-inch HDB culvert within the man-made ditch as we cross over that ditch. The roadway has been designed to geometric standards for the city of Saco with 18-foot wide gravel travelway and shoulders exactly what was provided in the existing Remick Drive back in 2019 design. We are requesting one waiver for this project, and that has to do with providing a monoslope road, and that is for stormwater management purposes, so that we can minimally disturb project area by having a monoslope road. We're able to send stormwater runoff to one side to vegetated stormwater forested buffers, so we don't have to provide additional structural BMPs. And so that is one request that if the board would like to discuss further, we can talk about. The proposed lot is proposed to be 39,000, almost 40,000 square feet. It'll be unsewered and have a well. You can tell by the site plan we've provided wells inclusion areas and septic exclusion areas. So we have laid out the lot, we've graded the lot, we've provided driveway off the hammerhead, meeting ordinance requirements for where you can have a driveway, and we've done some grading and provided the stormwater with vegetated buffers as well. And the lot will be served by underground power, subsurface wastewater, and private well. So again, we're just literally requesting site plan approval for extension of private road and just a lot split outside of the 5-year subdivision requirements. And lastly, stormwater management. I know the board's probably read, we have received the engineer's comments, and we are in the process of addressing those comments. He had comments on the stormwater modeling, minor in nature, and we're in the process of addressing those, and the next time we are with the board, we will have the engineer's comments resolved. But for the most part, we just have a ditch turnout, main DEP, BMP, and we're just trying to use vegetated buffers to the extent possible to provide stormwater and water quality management for the project. So overall, this project simply provides a little less than 0.3 acres of impervious area and under an acre of developed area for this project. And we are, of course, in the West Residential Zone. And with that, I'd like to turn it over for questions. I could add, in the engineer's memo, there was comments on vernal pools as such, and we did provide documentation, but we have additional documentation that we're providing with the final submission. There are no vernal pools on this project site, and that's been confirmed by Chris Copey. So we will be providing that to take care of the vernal pool situation. The applicant has had his lawyer review the existing recorded road maintenance agreement. The applicant owns the roadway right away. He owns the property. The road maintenance agreement allows for the access easements across the roadway for the 3 existing lots, for the 4 in the proposed lot, and for future development going forward. So this has been reviewed. We have been provided a letter today that we will be providing in the next application package that can be reviewed by the city's legal department. So we have tried to address those comments. It's just not in this packet. So I think those are kind of the major items and talking points. I'd like to turn it over to any questions that the board may have at this time.
Great, thank you. Board members, any questions for the applicant this evening on application of completeness? Jeff?
I was hoping Jim would start, because...
I knew it was going to be one of you guys.
So, no disrespect, obviously, I tend to focus on our city engineer's review.
Of course.
There were several things that seemed a little bit more substantial in nature in my interpretation of his tone. Starting with a simple one, is there was a driveway extension, I think, that was deeded from 117 Jenkins Road. Is there any clarification on, like, why that's not being used?
From our survey, there is no driveway on the property.
Okay.
It is shown on the city's GIS. I will research that further with my survey department, but we have actually no knowledge of that at this time.
Okay.
It's literally just shown on the city's GIS currently. So we will have to look into that further.
Okay. And I guess I was trying to...
Because Teradyne surveyors have done a boundary survey and an investigation, and that is not on our plan.
Okay. The number 2 was the code office to determine the number of lots off of the private drive. And you just kind of touched base, and I think you were really referring to the applicant has ownership of the existing private drive and the deeded access for future development. If this one were approved, that brings you to 4 lots. What future development? Are you just talking about the language of the easement? Because
we would come back for a subdivision application. Right now, I'm just looking for a site plan application.
even though our ordinance is limiting private roads to 4.
It would be converted. This is just future. Right now, we're here for the private drive and a lot split.
Okay.
If there was any future development, it would be turned into a public road, and would be doing a subdivision application. But that's not what we're here for.
Understandable. So that probably makes some sense as to why the city engineer was asking for core samples of the existing road to determine how it was constructed.
The existing Remick Drive is a private road that was approved by the planning board and was in 2019 and was constructed in 2020. No, we don't have a core sample for this gravel driveway-based gravel private road that was inspected at that time, we assume, by city staff, since all the conditions of approval in the city have inspections. Now,
okay, so you're feeling like the city should have that on record, they inspected it?
Possibly.
I'm just saying that I'm reading the engineer's report, and he brought it up, so.
Because maybe we can look at this during the site walk. and we can see the condition of this existing road, and that is not a dilapidated, all torn-up road. It is a functioning gravel private drive, which would be consistent with having proper DOT soils for
Okay.
buildup.
Yeah, so perhaps what we could ask is the city engineer to maybe clarify his question or his intent. Maybe he's misunderstanding what the intent is with that road or where it's at, but it seems like there's a disconnect there somehow. So
And
we
if
can,
there was any future development, the road would be turned into a public road with a total different geometric standards and all that, curbing, sidewalks.
sure.
Correct.
But right now, it's just a private gravel drive. But again, we can review the existing conditions during a sidewalk.
Okay. Then touching a little further, his comment number 6 was the post-development. The existing lot impervious increased. He wanted to update the model. Seems like there's a lot of stuff with the storm runoff that he had some questions on. Reach 1 discrepancy, the storm pond.
He had comments.
Right.
That we're looking to address.
And I get it. So I guess I just, these seem like there was more comments than I necessarily felt like was normally resolved or to accept as an application completeness. It just, to me, there was a lot. The DEP does not allow buffered treatments in wetland areas, so the whole concept of the design.
We're not providing that.
Okay. But that was written in our review. So I guess my question is, it just kind of feels like there's a lot of details that are still kind of standing out there, and I'm just wondering how do we deem the application complete if there are that many runoff or stormwater treatment things that are missing?
Well, if I may, yes, the comments are there, but we are in the process of addressing them, and we are not finding any major issues that are holding this up. And sometimes a peer reviewer just needs more explanation on things. So yes, there may be numerous comments, but it doesn't mean that it's detrimental to the project and that we're not meeting the city ordinance requirements for stormwater management. And we have done a complete analysis, and if we have to amend it to adhere to his comments to get approval, we'll be doing that. We are literally talking about 0.3 acres of impervious area for this project, including the lot and potential build out of that lot into a 2-family home. And we have attempted to provide a stormwater management plan that uses existing forests in the vicinity of the project to the extent possible. So if we had to get approval from the city engineer to provide more structural BMPs, then that will be what we'll do.
I think that's all I have for questions at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Jim?
One of the questions I had was the roadway that you're proposing to build, it's adjacent to or will be part of the sewer easement. There's a sewer easement.
Yes.
And do you anticipate your road in any way interfering with that sewer easement?
No. No. The sewer easement, 15-foot wide, and it's a 2-foot E1 force main system coming down through the right-of-way. Our roadway is off to the side of that.
So your roadway would be kind of, if the sewer easement's on the right going in, your roadway is going to be built to the left of that, the sewer easement, right?
Yes, because it's a 50-foot right-of-way, so we'll be able to avoid that for what we're doing now. So right now, it's in the underneath the ditch line.
And I realized that I had asked our last applicant a question that he seemed confused by, and it's because it was really a question I had for your application, and that was the hammerhead turnaround being too short.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with that comment, and that seems like an easy fix. I guess you could just extend the hammerhead turnaround a bit more so that.
Yeah, was that an engineer comment?
That's actually, yeah, an engineer comment, but it also looks at your plans particularly if you look at page 4 of 6,
Yeah.
to the extent that anyone in that duplex needs to back out into that turnaround, they don't have much room to back,
Oh, I see.
right? So
Yeah, there's plenty of room for that.
so even though Austin's left, I apologize to him, and I'm glad I got the
No,
question.
that's actually a really good comment.
And I guess my last question is, you mentioned needing a waiver so you could have a mono-sloped road?
Yeah, so we're trying to slope the road to the bottom of the page.
Okay, so towards the sewer easement, is that what you're saying?
Yes, into the
Okay.
forested areas of the parcel that we're looking to preserve through deed.
All right, now, is that, well, I'm sure you've already looked at this, but what ordinance section would we be granting a waiver to, and is it something we can grant?
Oh, I think I included in my, I think I really,
And I'm sorry if I missed it.
no, 2 seconds. I think in my application letter, I referenced the section.
At 230-1103, the private road, that can be found on page 19, I believe.
Yeah, it's 230-1103, design standards for private roads. To provide a private road with a super elevation slope at 2%. So basically, you just have a typical detail for 18-foot wide road with 3 inches and 15 inches of buildup, and then a crown in the middle. And we're just requesting to slope that road.
Sure, and that was all kind of quick there. What was the citation on that?
It was 230,
Yep.
1103. It's on page 2 of my cover letter. So it's 1103, design standards for private roads.
Got it. And that, and having all the, having the road just sloped that in that one direction towards the sewer easement, it's not going to adversely affect the sewer easement or
No,
neighboring properties in any way?
no, this sewer easement is growing up with vegetation, and on the other side of it is it's woods that we plan on utilizing for stormwater management.
Great, thank you very much. That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jim. Any additional thoughts or questions from board members for the applicant? So my first question, turn this off by accident. My first thought in question is going to be for staff. I believe section 230 is a zoning standard. I don't think we can grant a waiver for a private road standard. So that, I think before we move on that item, I think we should get some verification on that. I know we've had a similar request to some technical standards and some slope of banks that we have not been able to waive. So that, I don't think that section falls under site plan review, so that'd be one that I'd like some
Yeah, we can
clarification
provide
on that.
clarification on later. We'll work with the city engineer as well.
Sure.
So would that fall under the technical standards?
That's the question. Section 230 is our zoning.
No,
So-
now that you mention it, you're probably right.
Yeah, so if it works with the design and the city engineer supports that design for that project, then he might say okay, but
So in my response letter to the city engineer, I probably want to include this information to start that process.
Yeah, let's just verify that.
Yeah.
Um,
Do that. I mean, hopefully, I'd like to have that memo resolved prior to the sidewalk,
Okay, that,
if possible. I mean, we're working on it right now.
that sounds good. Any other thoughts from board members? I mean, to Jeff's comments, there's a few comments. There's some comments from the city engineer. I feel there's a lot of information in here as well that still needs to be worked through. I guess I'm comfortable with the application and them working through the questions with city engineer and a lot of these items, but I didn't have anything else specific on my list to touch upon. I think Jim and Jeff, you hit those items as well, but any other thoughts from board members? Joyce?
I guess, Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering if we need to wait until that decision regarding waiving the design standards can be waived before we can move forward on application completeness. I mean, we don't want to waste the applicant's time if he has to go back and redesign the slope of the road.
Sure, that's a fair question. So I didn't see, Ben, in our review memo, but is there a time that we can put this application for a public hearing? Is there a date that we have available? And maybe Lisa and Charles can chime in as well. And perhaps we've done this on a few other applications. We've held a site walk, and we've continued application and review and scheduled public hearing the same evening with appropriate direction, but perhaps that works in this case, and if it does, is there a date that we could work on?
Again, Mr. Chair, the December 2nd meeting is relatively open and available for scheduling public hearings. I understand the board's question about the ability to consider or hear a waiver request from that section. I think that is something that I do not know the answer to. I would need to get back to you on that, but they have submitted road designs, they have submitted stormwater plans, and that level of review is what I would look for a completeness. There's certainly some things that need to get addressed and tuned up, and there are engineering comments that need to be addressed, but I think unless there was something on that review checklist, that's kind of what I am going to as the contract planner when we review for completeness.
Sure, thank you. So meaning with that, we can continue if the board finds the application sufficient without granting the waiver. The board could find the application complete. The applicant could work with city engineering, work through the items, get clarity on that request. We can schedule a public hearing, we can schedule a site walk, and get updates as we progress. Thoughts from board members? Jim?
Well, I think that makes sense, because if, my memory is, last time we encountered this with trying to get a waiver of a zoning ordinance requirement, the city attorney said that needed to go through the zoning board of appeals. So then the applicant came back and said, well, we really don't need the waiver anyway, because we'll just redesign our project so we don't have to go before the ZBA. So that could certainly happen here as well. And if that's the case, then if we found the application complete as it stands without granting the waiver, set up the site walk and have the Conservation Commission join us, by the time we come back for the public hearing, either we'll have that waiver issue decided, or the applicant may just decide to make the road a little different. So it isn't mono-sloped, right? So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we find the application complete, and Well, let's just go there. Move to find the application complete.
Okay. Thank you for the motion, Jim.
I'll second.
Second by Joyce. Any additional discussion on finding the application complete? Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just be clear, I mean, kind of following Ben's lead, the applicant has submitted a road profile. He has submitted the details that are required for the private road. Even though we know they may not meet the technical design manual, and the applicant understands we can maybe move this along, but there could be some pretty big, okay, I guess I can kind of agree with that in the sense to keep the ball rolling forward. But obviously, there are some pretty big voids that need to be worked out with the engineer, so I understand where we're going. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any additional thoughts, discussion? All right, those in favor of finding the application complete, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, members of the board, planning staff.
So December 2nd is a potential public hearing and a site walk. Would you
Well,
like a site walk?
could we do the site walk, Mr. Chair, the same day we're doing the site walk for the Watson Mills Road project? I mean, they're pretty close together.
I'm available.
What's that?
I'm available.
You're available, that's great. Thank you. But I know for people who have to work, that's doubling up site walks is a bit of a challenge, but it's just a thought. I mean, we're just going a couple miles away to the next site walk. How does everyone feel about that?
I don't feel great about that. We were on a fairly small property today, and it took quite a while to go around the perimeter. So I don't want to sell anybody short by cutting them off because people need to get to work.
Sounds like Jim doesn't have a whole lot to do during the day.
Yeah,
so
I don't have much going on, so this is, I can just go site walks all day.
I agree with
I'm
Joyce.
jealous.
I don't want to be rushed. I don't want anyone to feel rushed. So I'd prefer if we do it a different day as well. So with that, we have one scheduled for the 18th. Perhaps is the 25th. I know that's Thanksgiving week, but is the 25th? That's another Tuesday morning. Couple head nods if board members are available.
Would we want to maybe do 2 in a week? Would we want to do, the 18th and do one on the 20th? Or is that too much for work schedules? I'm kind of thinking I'd like to leave, there's a lot of gaps here. And I'm hoping that, obviously we can invite the Conservation Commission. I'd like to see if staff, if we could put an invite to maybe the city engineer could come in and kind of explain what some of his concerns were on this particular layout. And that'll give us a better view of what we're really looking for from his perspective. I know he may not be available. But if we have a fixed time that we know it's going to be an 8 a.m. site walk, and I agree with Joyce, I don't want to put too much in one day, but I give kudos that we're spending more time because we're becoming more thorough and consistent in our site walk evaluations. We're asking questions, we're engaging, versus, yeah, looks good, we made the attempt. I think today was a very small parcel, but there was a lot of detail, a lot of information, a lot of things that we're focused on. And yes, there's room for improvement, and we continue to do that. And that's why I'd like to extend the invitation to the city engineer. So I would be amenable if we wanted to do like a Thursday, and that would give them enough time to work through their communication. I don't want to get it too close to the public hearing, so they can work through.
Sure. Perhaps, Lisa, could you remind us when the Conservation Commission meets? And I think the 18th, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I think the 18th gives them the opportunity. Do they have a meeting on Wednesday, the 19th? I think they meet Wednesdays. So I agree with Jeff, but I want to make sure that we don't, if we meet on the 20th, then if the Conservation Commission doesn't meet for a week or two beyond that, then perhaps we're before the 18th, I guess is my only concern.
The Conservation Commission does meet on the 19th.
They do meet on the 19th.
Yep.
So perhaps, Jeff, you threw out a Thursday there, so maybe Thursday the 13th, that morning, 8 a.m. could work? Yeah?
Wait, hold
Is that enough time for public notice?
I think it's 7 days for the public sidewalks. It's 14 days for the public hearings, but I think for sidewalks, we're only doing 7. So yes, I can do that tomorrow for you.
So, Mr. Chair, you're looking at the 13th?
13th, 8 a.m.
Well, once again, I'm free.
I'm jealous again.
All right, so we've discussed a Thursday, November 13th, for a site walk, inviting the Conservation Commission so they can put together a report for us, along with a December 2nd public hearing. Those dates seem to work well. November 13th site walk would be 8 a.m. Does anyone like to make that an official motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we schedule a public hearing for December 2nd, and also schedule the site walk for November 13th at 8 a.m., and to invite the Conservation Commission to join us.
And city engineer, if he's available.
And city engineer, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I would second that motion.
Second by Jeff, thank you. Any additional discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor. Jim?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0. All right, I think that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, members of the board and staff.
Mr. Chair, can we take a short break before the next item? Seems like 8 o'clock is a good time.
Sure, we can take we'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you, everyone, for that short recess. We will continue this evening with item 7D. This is Isle Avenue, map 37, lot 6, and this is a application of completeness review for a proposed 20-foot by 10-foot seasonal dock with a 40-foot by 30-foot gangway, and this is in the Saco Island zoning district. This is a site plan review this evening, and presented by Saco Riverside LLC and Goral Palmer this evening. Any additional updates from staff on this one?
No updates, but maybe just to frame it a little bit more, like other applications earlier this evening where we were reviewing for completeness, this one's a little different in that it's an amendment to an existing site plan, and there is no checklist for this because all amendments are different and really just kind of depending on the scope of the amendment is really what the board needs to make a determination on. Does the board have enough info based on the scope of the change to proceed with the application? So we didn't provide a checklist. The scope of the amendment, as you stated, Mr. Chair, is for the addition of a temporary dock, a seasonal dock, that would be part of the project. And I see the applicant's representative is here, but our review was based on statements in the submission that said it was really for the use of residents within the project. It wouldn't be a public boat launch. And therefore, our review was really pretty limited on what would the impacts of that dock be on the approved site plan. So with that in mind, we feel that the information provided by the applicant is adequate for a completeness for the amendment. But I would, that's obviously a decision the board needs to make this evening. Thanks.
Great, thank you, sir. Board members, any questions for staff at this time? Any conflicts or disclosures on this item? All right, and with that, we'll ask the applicant to come up and tell us all about it.
Good evening. Caleb Brass with Goral Palmer here on behalf of Saco Riverside LLC, here to speak to you tonight just about this application for site plan amendment for a seasonal dock or a temporary dock that is about 10 by 20 with an associated 4-foot wide by 30-foot long gangway. We had provided, just to kind of build off of what Ben had discussed here, we had provided basically just responses to the typical dock standards within the shoreline zone performance standards. So those are outlined in our letter from section 230.804. We had provided a Army Corps authorization that the applicant had pursued earlier this year. That was basically a self-verification notification. It being a temporary dock, that itself is more or less just the notification form similar to a permit by rule, if you will. And then understanding that typically temporary docks at this size would typically, would the city's code be reviewed administratively or by the code enforcement officer? We had been working back and forth with staff, determined that because there is the site plan permit on the property that we should come back before the board. So wanted to bring this before you all, and I'll keep that necessarily short. Only item I wanted to know, I feel, and hopefully we can have quick discussion, fairly straightforward ask here for the temporary dock, and we can point to, we had some information on where that's located on the property, but we have a request for completeness this evening. But I'd also ask that the board discuss and perhaps direct the staff to draft findings of fact such that at the next meeting that we might be able to just reach a final approval at that time. So with that, just certainly turn it over to the board and have a discussion on that.
Great, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Board members, any questions for the applicant at this time on this application of completeness? Catherine?
Hi, I just have one question. I see that you had originally asked for the 20 by 50 dock. And all the notes say, at this time, you're only asking for 20 by 10. Do you envision needing a bigger dock in the future?
There may be, but for the moment, this is just what the applicant's looking for.
Okay.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Any other thoughts from board members? Jeff?
Yeah, so kind of playing on Catherine's, that's what I had. So the Army Corps of Engineers obviously approved you in your design for 20 by 50. And sounds like you're very clear that because there's an existing site plan on this parcel, the change you're coming for before us again, which I think is, appropriate. And if we approve this 20 by 10, if you were to expand in the future, you'd anticipate coming back again to just discuss the larger.
Correct. Yep.
I'm fine with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Any other thoughts from board members, questions?
I think that was everyone's question, was the difference in size, but where you're asking for less than what the Army Corps approved.
So,
Jeff?
as far as access, obviously you have to kind of get through your development. So are you anticipating any sort of a gate at the top of this gangway to try to limit, people who might find their way over there to going down and using the docks? That way, your residents would know what the passcode is, or?
No, honestly, I think that hasn't really been discussed at this point. The idea being that it's tucked way out back in the development as well, so you'd have to get past several units, drive down the road. It's really mostly, it really is only for the community. So the idea being that, people that are walking in or driving in, it wouldn't be as accessible, and I think that people would pick up on that. So I think that the intent is just for the community.
So, and then no proposed lighting, maybe a storage area for the kayaks of the tenants? I mean, would you propose any lighting? Because there's no photometric plans, so we're just talking about the dock.
Yeah, nothing that we had. I envision, for something to that effect, Jeff, I think you might have, oftentimes people have just solar activated lights that are really, really low, just enough to see, but nothing else proposed on the dock at this time.
Go ahead, Jim.
Jim?
I just have a historical question. Is the choice of the location, I'm just looking at the photograph you showed, and it looks like stone steps down to the water there. Was that at some time in the past like the historical location of a dock for Saco Island? Is that why that location was picked, or?
I think there was some access. We do have in our files, I'd have to share it just with staff to pass along, but we have some old files in our folders just of the historical use of the site. So I can't picture it off the top of my head, but it probably plays into it, yeah.
I just thought it's quite interesting because it looks like it really is outside of the path of the water from the falls, and so it would seem like it's in a cove that would be a fairly calmer section of the water, which would be a good location for that. That's
right.
all, yeah. But that's all. Thank you.
I thought there was comment in there, Jim, about a previous owner had modified that area for this purpose. And it wasn't necessarily like the historical use, but regardless, it is strategically a good area because it's calmer from what's coming off the spillway, and it's not in the navigable channel on the other side, so.
Jeff?
With that, Mr. Chair, I would move that we find the site plan application amendment for Isle Ave, map 37, lot 6, complete.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff.
Second.
Second by Jim, thank you. Any additional discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we schedule a public hearing for this item on December 2nd, 2025, and request that staff compile draft findings of facts and conditions of approval for this application.
Second.
Thank you for the motion, Jeff, and the second, Jim. Any additional discussion? I guess my one item is going to be to request to move this item to December 16th based on current agenda items. That's
So I would amend my motion to change the date to December 16th.
Now amend my second.
any additional items, or excuse me, additional discussion? All right, those in favor of scheduling a public hearing for December 16th on this item? Those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes 5-0. And that request also came with draft findings of fact and conditions of approval? Yes. Great. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, continuing along with our agenda this evening, we will move to item 7E. This is a application of completeness review for a site plan review amendment for 184 Simpson Road, map 121, lot 6. This is a request for deferral to 6/3/2027 of certificate of approval number 9 for left lane construction. Any additional items or updates on this item from staff?
Mr. Chair, there's no additional updates from beyond what's in the staff memo that was prepared for the application.
All right, thank you, sir. Board members, any questions for staff at this time? Any conflicts or disclosures on this item? Jim?
Mr. Chair, I just want to make it clear for the record, I probably live driving probably about a mile from the ecology school, and about as the bird flies, probably about a half a mile. I can see its lights at night. I can see, just like I can see Gonneville's lights at night on Route 5. So I don't have any particular opinion about the ecology school or this application, but I thought I should just alert everyone that, you know, I'm close by.
All right, great. Thank you, Jim. Any questions or concerns about Jim's participation on this item? Jeff?
So just close by, but you're not a direct abutter, even though the parcels are large out there?
Right. I would say, yeah, probably about a mile away is driving, and I'm not even close.
All right. Great, thank you. And the applicants with us this evening, any concern with Jim's participation this evening on this item? Yeah, no, just giving you an opportunity to let us know if you feel that Jim should not participate based on his proximity, or, okay, great, thank you. So with that, no other questions from board members for staff. And with that, we'd like the applicant to come on up and give us an update or presentation, anything you have here.
Good evening, I'm Drew Dumsch. I'm the president and CEO of the Ecology School at 184 Simpson Road. Also a resident of Ward 2 for Nunsuch Road. Quick update that wasn't in the packet. I've been in discussions with our engineer from Sebago Technics, Brad Lyon, who also did the design on the Hancock left turn lane on Route 1. The final design has been approved for the left turn lane, which is 1.7 miles from the Ecology School's property on State Highway Route 112. It has been reviewed by the city and Maine DOT and approved. The next steps really are just the basic finishing up construction easements from the city, final utilities timeline for moving back to poles, finalize project specifications, advertise and take bids, choose the contractor, and break ground spring 2026 on the left turn lane.
Okay. Board members, any questions for the applicant at this time? Jeff?
Sure. Well, thank you. So what was the date that the final design was approved?
In the spring, I believe.
Because it's not in our packet.
That'd be a staff question.
Okay.
So 50%, I believe, was in the fall of 2024, and then in the winter, I believe February, final design was complete, and then there was approval process in the spring.
Jeff, you're looking to see the design, you mean? Is that what you're?
Well, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to get a sense of what the applicant has accomplished in the, 4 years of delay. I would expect that there would be a fully designed plan that would be presented. There was a conceptual plan when I was on the board in 2020 when we did the first extension. But I don't hear, I'm hearing that we haven't done any utility relocation design with Central Maine Power and the attached utilities.
That has been all done. I wish we had city staff to talk about all the work that has already been done. It's basically teed up. The city just needs to do the construction easements.
So construction easements, then there's the monies that were supposed to be paid for the design on your behalf that the council approved. I watched the council meeting. Have you, come up to date with the financial responsibilities to the council that they were kind enough to pay the debt for?
We have, the city attorney has been in negotiations with the Ecology School attorney. I think Councilor Hatch can also confirm that we're on the last steps of finishing up that payment. Not to put you on the spot, Councilor Hatch, but the council hopes to see an intercreditor agreement go before the council at the November 10th council meeting.
Keep going if you have other thoughts or questions. We can, you
Well,
want that one specific answered now if Councilor Hatch?
Well, I'd like to understand that. I'd like to understand how we can, move forward that the BPI funding, basically expires next month. So then there's no money available for the project. I'm confused how we can amend a site plan when it's very clear that the application can typically be extended once when they apply before, the end of a 36-month post-approval when significant construction hasn't started. This would be our third extension. I'm trying to understand, that it was a condition of approval for a contract zone, which now the contract zone doesn't exist. So even if we go by with, Attorney Caxtafis's interpretation, where if he was in good standing and this had all been done, they would be a legally existing non-conforming use, but they haven't fulfilled their requirements, so now they're not a legally non-conforming use. There's a lot of stuff here that has been presented or just hasn't been done. And I think that, so that's our review, right? We're trying to understand why we need to extend it again. I was on the board for the first extension, and there was a lot of, financial concern. There was heartache about, collecting the monies. That this was an off-site improvement that just doesn't exist because it's a mile and a half away. And I think back to the planning board at the time of original approval. I think two of you were on the board at the time, but we also had two very senior members of our planning board who had been on for almost 2 decades each. And their review was thorough enough that this condition needed to be attached. And they conditioned this with number 9, pretty well drafted, of approval. They all agreed to it. They started their construction, and we just kind of kept pushing it down the road. And then we had a play on words about what it means for a condition of approval and who's responsible when you work with. And our current council, I think, stepped up above and beyond, but they said, hey, we're going to go ahead and try to help the situation and apply for this grant, this BPI funding, and they did. It's not even a focused area in many ways, but the council, it's their authority, they did it, and now they are holding the bag for monies that was released from a security for the first design of half of the value of construction to pay the debt for engineering. I don't know why we're even kind of carrying forward, and I think some of the public comment tonight is pretty accurate. We don't have the right to continue something that does not exist. It's void. It lapsed. It lapsed on Monday, or the 1st of November, and the application to be before us was only filled out 3 weeks ago. It was signed 3 weeks ago to say, oh yeah, I'm not going to make it. There's a lot of pieces here that I don't think that we have the authority to approve a continuation of something that's basically a voided contract at this point. So I don't know. I just sense a little frustration. I know there's been a ton of city effort. I tried to get the notes, and I apologize for city staff because we're in transition and you might not all be here. But that they've been reaching out and advocating for months, hey, you need to get something rolling if you're going to ask for an extension. And here we are at the final hour, past the deadline, to try to do an extension. And the money for construction is going to go away. And every time we do a delay, the cost of construction goes up. We're more than double what it would have been to do this back at the original approval. So I just think we just need to call it what it is. They defaulted on one of their conditions of approval, and that's where they're going to stay until the city, and if the council wants to go through and redo a contract zone to make it a conforming or legitimate use, then we can entertain what we need to do to move forward. But at this point, I don't know how we can actually say, yes, we'll allow another extension, because they're defaulted. The financial guarantee piece doesn't exist because the BPI funding is going to time out next month. I think that, you know, some of the public comment is 100% on that we can't move this forward. We can't extend it. It's at this point it's kind of a dead issue, and then they have to live with the situation that arises from a condition of approval for a site plan that has not been met. That's not our department at that point. I think that's code enforcement. So I guess we could, you know, find tonight that we agree that this is not something we can extend. It's a failure of a condition of approval. But I would not be in support of trying to accept this application, because I don't think they have the right title or the right interest at this point now to move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions from board members? Jim?
Well, just as to Jeff's point, I'm just thinking about many court deadlines that I've had in the past, and if a deadline something has to be done by November 1st, or something has to happen by November 1st, and if you make the request to the court prior to November 1st to ask for an extension, the court finds that request timely. So it looks to me like this request was made, admittedly late, because I've also followed the city council in their meetings. Not having anything else to do, I watch the city council meetings on Monday nights too. So I've followed that, and yes, the ecology school could have, when this was first mentioned to them to come back to us, they could have made that request earlier, but nonetheless, the request being made on October 7th, I think the request is timely for the extension.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions from board members? Joyce?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I have a comment. I mean, I agree with Jim that I think that the request was timely made. I think also that's really not what we're being asked this evening. What we're being asked this evening is whether they have fulfilled the requirements of presenting a complete application. I mean, the hearing on the merits of the application is a different hearing on a different day. It seems like tonight we're just being asked, have they presented a completed application to us?
Thank you, Joyce. Any other thoughts or questions from board members? Jeff?
So if we play that out and say that we're receiving a completed application, part of that is financial capacity, right? I mean, we're asking for an extension with something that has continually risen in cost. And unless they're going to start construction by December 3rd of 2025, that money, it sounds like, is no longer available. And then it's self-funded through the school? I mean,
Could I just, if, I thought this was the application completion. I would have brought our attorney and our engineer if I thought we were moving to public hearing. Because there's a lot of inaccuracies right now in the assumptions that need to be countered if there's gonna be a vote.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question, because there's, to Joyce's point in question, application of completeness, and then move to discussion. I'd like to try to stay within that as well, because I have many questions as well, and I think a lot of them are gonna, a lot of my questions are gonna fall to staff. So I'd like to try to stay within the confines of application as well. So we have the contract zone component of it as well, but the applicant has a project, it's been before the board, there's site plan approval, there's merit, standing, right title, interest, all that fun stuff. Financial capacity, that's going to be a discussion topic as well, but I think the application of completeness, I think that has to be the focus this evening. And if the board finds the application complete, then we can provide direction to the applicant for additional information that we would need to review the application from there. So that's my thought there. Any other thoughts or questions?
I agree, Mr. Chair. So, you know, to the extent you have questions, you know, be happy to listen to your questions, and because I think focusing on application of completeness is really essential for us. There are a lot of issues here that has generated a lot of controversy in the community, and you know, some of that controversy, and much of it, really is on the city council side of things. It's really not the planning board, I don't think. So I would love to hear your questions and comments, Mr. Chair.
Well, I'm looking to move forward on resolution here. We're looking to move forward. I don't see how we can move forward if the application is not found complete. To Jeff's point, finding the application complete just leaves the project as it is. So therefore, a question I'm going to have for staff is, and I know I've asked this question before, what are the consequences of not meeting the deadline? So it's hasn't been met. So what are the consequences for the applicant? Does not meeting this deadline prohibit the applicant from putting the left turn lane in? I don't see how it goes to some of the other questions or how some of the wording was, but that's going to be a big question for me. That I don't see, the deadline hasn't been met, but I don't see any consequences. I don't see anything that stops the applicant from completing this. It's not to downplay it, but it's a date on a condition that's been moved a few times. Like, what are the consequences? So that's my big question. And in an effort to come to an overall resolution to condition 9, that means finding the application complete, moving forward and coming to some sort of resolution. Finding the application complete doesn't say we agree to modifying condition 9, the date or whatnot. That's further discussion once we find the application complete, if we do. And with that, Drew, you mentioned the actual start of construction date. I couldn't write it fast enough.
The
but
timeline is pulled directly from a memo from City Planner Cole Prescott. And
Well,
we
then-
are in compliance. There is no question right now of DOT pulling funding. The ecology school is paying over 2/3. We already have a construction agreement where we're paying, originally the city agreed to pay 1/3. There was an election, that agreement was rescinded. The agreement then back in May of 2024 was, excuse me, the city would loan to the ecology school the original 2/3 of their contribution. So right now, I mean, we paid our first loan payment on that in July, $7,500. We are in compliance with that. In terms of the $67,000 and some change, we still need to pay on the upfront third cash. That is being finalized right now. In fact, the city's attorney and the ecology school's attorney were in discussion today on the intercreditor agreement to move ahead. And my understanding from city staff is that the council would like to vote on that at the November 10th council meeting. With that, the ecology school very much hopes that the escrow account, the city's been sitting on $240,000 of the ecology school's money in an escrow account. Why we have been stalled out, there's been strong disagreement over whether the current amount in the escrow account could be used to pay Sebago Technics. And the college school, obviously the city decided, no, we could not use our escrow account to pay Sebago Technics. We disagreed with that. I think we finally have worked with the council and city staff to find a resolution to that. So when we go to the public hearing, those questions will be fully resolved.
Sure. So construction is still slated to start December 3rd.
As part of what they're teeing up, that's considered, my understanding, again, I wish we had supportive city staff to do that, but like, that was approved by the staff. I checked with city staff on this timeline that came from a memo from Emily Cole Prescott, that timeline would hold. That's why I used the quote from the memo.
Okay.
If there was a disagreement on what qualifies moving ahead, believe me, I've been asking every month whether the DOT 1/3 funding would be in jeopardy. And
Okay,
my
I thought
understanding
you-
from city staff, it is not in jeopardy. That the timeline you saw in the June 3rd, 2027 completion was taken directly from City Planner Cole Prescott's memo.
Okay, I thought one of your updates when you introduced the project was start of construction this coming spring.
How
I thought
they
you said
qualify as start of construction, even I am not an engineer. Again, if I'd known we were going to go to
Okay.
public hearing type of, I would have brought our attorney and I would have brought our engineer.
Sure,
I thought
yeah.
this was approval of application
Yeah,
completeness.
it is. Yeah, we're not.
Okay.
We're not. So there's no change in the dates there. Okay.
And my submission to the council was a very detailed, month-by-month, year-by-year, detailed breakdown of intent to move the project forward. As I said all along, the educational nonprofit funding the majority of a highway project was going to be tricky, and we were going to need to finance it. We have finally found, with the help of the council and the city staff, a way to wrap that up within the next few weeks. So I look forward to being in front of this board for the actual public hearing where we can get in depth on your questions, Mr. Brochu, because they're very good questions. And they can be answered during the public hearing.
Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant or staff? Jeff?
I'd kind of like to see what staff's opinion is on, the checklist for application completeness. We just talked about the previous application, right? And it was an existing site plan, and you're kind of leaving it up to the board if the application is complete for an amendment. We're being asked for an extension of a condition or modification of a condition to allow a time extension, and do we just go through and pick items, or are we going to go through a full checklist to make sure the application's complete? At the very least, I would think that we would have a design in front of us or some sort of a plan of where we're going. I don't feel like we as a board are just checking off that, okay, condition number of 9, we're going to delete another date and insert a new one. We want to know some credibility. What have we been doing to get there? What tangible documents can you submit as part of this submission to make it an application to do that? That's where I'm kind of at. I don't have anything to say, why are we extending this date other than they didn't achieve it? Show me that all of these things have been lined up and are done. Why isn't that in our application? Why don't we know how many easements were obtained? That all the easements that they need for construction are done, that we have a full design from utility companies to relocate poles, time estimates, that those, we don't have any of that. We're just being asked to extend the date. And if I'm supposed to vote on saying that I feel like an application is complete because I have a request from one page of a site plan amendment form and a signature saying, yeah, we would like to amend condition number 9, that's pretty weak. I don't think I'm necessarily out of line saying, give me some documents of why we're amending this. For those of us who have seen council, we know that the city staff has been working at this. They've been getting the opportunity for funding for them together. Whether we agree or not, they've been doing their piece. That has been lined up. These other pieces of coordination, and I think it's one thing that city council may have stepped up and said, hey, the term work with will assist. It doesn't sound like entire city staff should be carrying the ball to get the construction rolling. We're not asking our public works guys to go out there and push every single one of these guys to meet the date for their condition of approval. I think that they've kind of gone above and beyond, and the city staff's been done. I would like to know, how am I supposed to vote on an application of completeness when I don't even have a design that says, this is what it is? MDOT, Randy Lillian, I think, is usually one that gives us pretty good memos that their design is the way they want it to be. Need to have this much taper for the lanes. We don't have anything. I don't have anything to say this application is acceptable as complete. For me, it's quite a stretch to want to vote to say it's complete because they filled out one page or 2 pages of our application. I don't think any supporting documents. We would ask for a site plan and concept, a boundary survey. We'd ask for all of these things on a regular site plan. We have nothing. There has to be something, how much land is being taken or acquired along this intersection for the additional space needed for a turn lane. There has to be something with where the utility poles are moving. has to be something with sight lines and stuff. There was $60,000 of engineering fees that you paid for. What did they give you for $60,000? I would expect at least a piece of paper showing a design, and I don't have anything. So to ask me to find this application complete, I think is a little premature on my part. So we could table, but I can't vote on what we have before us as a complete application and justification for the citizens as to why they should have another 2 years.
Thank you, Jeff. Hold one second. Any other comments or questions from board members?
I agree with Jeff that we don't have enough paperwork to make a decision on. And I think there is still, questions for staff on what the future looks like legally and where city council is going to be going.
Okay. So with that, Ben had explained where there's no checklist, so it's based on the request with the application materials. So if there are more pieces that the board finds that we need to review as part of this application request for the amendment, a few of the items that were discussed was a final design, cost of construction, financial capacity, survey, easements, schedule. One thought I had was permits, all necessary permits, any state, DOT, anything applicable for this one. So that's if we're looking at a list to ask the applicant to come back with or to add to the application, these would be some of these items. Does that make sense to some of the thoughts and concerns that you're looking for, Jeff? Any other? My notes here, start of construction in December. In the application materials, a lot of these items were discussed, so that should be able to get that on short order, I suspect. So, Jim?
I think that is, it'd be very good to know all those things. A lot of those details, I don't know if those are details that we need to determine the application complete, though. Clearly, why hasn't this been built yet? And it's because there was a problem with money, right? And the city council's been dealing with this for several years, this problem with money in the ecology school. But I don't know. Jeff and Joyce and Matt, you were all on the board when this condition was placed on that approval, but I didn't see anything even in the extended description of that condition that would require someone to come back and show us, detailed plans of the left turn lane or cost estimates or any of that sort of thing. It was just a requirement to go and build a left turn lane on the Buxton Road. So while I think all those items that Jeff and Matt just mentioned would be very nice to know, I don't think they're essential for an application completeness determination. All they're asking to do is to move a date. And in my view, they did it timely. They could have been more timely, but they did it timely. I do think at the public hearing stage, if we want every detail about the left turn lane, we'll get it. And to the extent that the applicant's representations about the city council and the intercreditor agreement are true, then it looks like the city council's been working pretty hard on this too. But I don't think we should be duplicating their efforts by getting into the details of the left turn lane if they're figuring out the financial side of it, which has been the holdup all along, as far as I can tell. So it's my view that given this application, I would say the application's complete. As it is, it's just a request for a date change. And they've given reasons for the date change. We may disagree. And, each of us might disagree with their reasoning for the request for the date change, but I think it's, that's a fairly simple request, and so I'm not offended by it, and I would say the application is complete.
Thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts from board members? Jeff?
I just respectfully, I guess, disagree in the sense, this would kind of set, if we took this approach, this thought approach, and moved it to a subdivision. Somebody comes before us and is making a 25-lot subdivision. They come and give us all their initial designs and financial capacity, and we approve it, and off it goes, right? But it doesn't get built out. And we have very specific terms about renewing approval, right? If significant, or I think it's significant construction, or the majority of construction has not commenced within 36 months, which I think used to be 24, they can apply before expiration of that approval for a 1-year extension. That's all they get, 1-year extension. And this being a condition of approval, everything else has been built out. They haven't even finished the condition of approval, and we've already done the extension twice for 2 years. So we're not following our ordinance on extensions. And that becomes very problematic because I now see people that are pushing our queue of reviews. I think we heard somewhere around 40 applications, 40 different things that are in queue, right? They're getting all these approved. Are we going to start having applicants coming before us and saying, oh yeah, I got my subdivision approved back in 2024, but I'm going to wait for all of these state zoning changes and I'm going to pop them back up. I'm going to keep reviewing, keep extending them every year. And how do we, in good faith, say, no, you only had one extension. Our ordinance says you get one extension after 36 months, and after that, the whole site plan's null and void. That's the condition of approval that we put on all of our plans now. But we're going to let this one keep going. I don't understand that. We have a timeline when, site plan approvals will cease if they're not started. And so for me, this has exceeded that timeline. And we don't even necessarily have the right to extend it again. But that's my point. We don't have a checklist because we don't have a criteria of how many times are we going to allow an amendment to change a date. Because you're right, it's simply a date change. It wasn't executed. Well, what has gone on in the last 4 years that would warrant another date change? If we don't even have technical drawings, we're just kicking the can down the road. And that to me is very problematic. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Catherine?
I do have a question because he mentioned, he's not an engineer and I'm not an engineer. When does construction officially start? Because he mentioned groundbreaking in the spring, correct?
I really wish I'd known these are excellent questions, and if our attorney and our engineer had been here, I thought this was approving the application. Right now, the city is totally in charge of the project. It's the construction agreement that exists. We're basically paying for it and waiting on the city to move it ahead in terms of execution. And all those things you're asking for, Mr. Brochu, exist. Those all exist. They've been working on it since, in fact, we were meeting after the construction agreement was signed back in May 2024. We had a construction meeting in June of 2024. Most of those things already exist with the staff. The city engineer is reviewed, DOT is, those are great questions. I wish, had I known they need to be part of the packet, or if the city staff had known they'd been part of the packet, we would have been happy to put that all in the packet. And I would have been happy to bring Brad Lyon as our engineer from Saco Technics here to ask those questions. I'm not the engineer.
So we could, we could take this list that we've built, we can add to it, but it's, in order for this to happen in the schedule that's been described in our packet here, in our report, all of these items that we mentioned, we could add or subtract as well. These items must exist to do this. So to your point, Jeff, if it were a new application, we would get that information anyway. So we can, if the board is in agreement, we can look at this as continuing application of review to our next available meeting, December 16th. We can continue application review to the 16th, request these items, schedule the public hearing at the same time, and give the applicant an opportunity to get us this information, whether it's from the applicant or staff, and he's heard our questions and give the opportunity to continue the discussion with this information before us. So that's one avenue, or we can, my biggest concern is not, I want to get to a resolution. We need to, the applicant, the city needs to come to a resolution on that. So that's if continuing application review, requesting these items is just that. It's continuing application review, it's requesting the items. It's not where we have the request in a timely fashion that I agree with Jim, the request, it was before the date. That's just a thought of moving forward. Or we can say the application's incomplete and the applicant makes a complete application and resubmits it. It's, you know, I'm thinking about the alternatives here. There's no consequences. I know, Ben, thoughts? I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the history of the approvals and those kinds of things,
Sure.
so I will couch these comments in just really what's in front of the board tonight. That the application for an extension was made before the deadline. I don't think there should be any question about whether or not this was made in a timely manner. I think that the question about the, you know, what criteria does the board use to make a determination on whether or not to grant the extension is a good question, but because this is there's really nothing in the application that's changing. So it's all of the things that you'd listed, Mr. Chair, around updated plans, that include easements and utility coordination. Those things I think will definitely help the board understand, you know, what has been designed and how this, you know, will be constructed. It seems like the applicant is working with the city in good faith to get a condition met. It hasn't been done by the deadline, but they are working with the city. So whether it's found complete this evening or whether it is continued to a future meeting and a determination is made of completeness later, I think that moving this ahead in the spirit of knowing that the applicant's working with the city. I wouldn't want to see the planning board derail a process that's happening with the council related to this. So whether it's found complete and a public hearing is scheduled, or whether there's no finding of completeness tonight and it's kind of continued to a future meeting where a decision can be made, I think that would be appropriate. Either one of those would be appropriate, and hopefully the applicant is hearing the board loud and clear that a determination on a yes or no vote on whether or not to grant the extension will be easier to make with that additional information in the form of the plans and materials, financial capacity, and hearing from the applicant's engineer on the design. But for the sake of tonight's discussion, I think we should be focused on what those next steps are. I think that's really kind of getting to the comments that I've heard a couple board members make. So I think, again, it's up to the board to decide if the application for an extension request is complete or not. I believe the simple extension request is. It's really hard for me, from my perspective, to say, how it's a request for an extension that really isn't completeness. So moving ahead to the actual decision should be the next step. And I think there's some additional information that the board has brightly requested to help make that determination. So again, my recommendation would be, whether it's found complete or not this evening, or the board continues this discussion, either one of those would be more appropriate than simply saying, this is not a timely application, or the extension, gets decided this evening.
Great, thank you, sir. Any other thoughts from board members? Catherine?
They mentioned the financial aspect would be discussed at the next city council meeting, correct? Phil?
There's something before council for their next agenda on the 10th, I believe. And that is separate from our review this evening. So there's,
Right.
at our next discussion, if it continues, we would have additional information from that city council meeting.
So if we table it tonight to our next, the 2nd or the 16th in December, we would then have some more answers to the financial aspect, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I think if some of the members are hesitant about determining the application complete tonight, I think your suggestion of simply continuing that issue, but also scheduling the public hearing, as we've done on other applications in the past. And then in the meantime, the applicant could come forward with all that information, and at that point, we could determine the application complete, and then we'd already have the public hearing scheduled. So I would suggest we take that course, and I don't know how other board members feel, but that in the alternative, if we're not going to determine it complete tonight and we need more information, then I suggest we take your suggestion.
Thank you, Jim. Jeff?
Chair, I think I'd like to follow with your suggestion, tell the applicant we need these additional items, and continue review or table to a future meeting. I'm not in support of scheduling the public hearing to be in conjunction with that, because I don't think it's fair for people who are trying to follow this to try to prepare. This is a very in-depth, very historic application, to prepare their responses to us. Just as I think it's very crucial that I sense the applicant is saying, hey, everything's queued up, we're just waiting for the city to move it forward. I would like to have a report from the Director of Public Works saying, what have they been doing? Because I get the sense that, hey, it's almost like a subdivision. I'm going to build a city street to city standards. This is my idea. This is my thing. I'm going to pay for it, but Public Works, you coordinate everything. You get the excavators, you put the sewer in, you coordinate CMP. That's kind of what I'm hearing here, and I don't think anywhere in the initial condition that the planning board's intent was that the city was going to be coordinating all construction. And I'd like to have, we hear the applicant saying that it's all lined up on the city's half. I'd like to hear the city staff's department saying where they're at. Are they truly, yes, everything is lined up, but we don't have the monies to pay the engineer to release the design? Is that where we're at? Let's hear from city staff, because the memos were pretty clear. The planning department was reaching out to the applicant 6 months ago saying, hey, you need to get moving on this. And here we are 3 weeks before filing an application. So I think in all fairness, we don't need to rush. You've granted, 4 years of extensions already. Let's get the facts from the city staff who has been directed by council to assist this further, find out where they're at. The applicant can come with his legal team and his engineering team and present, just like every other applicant before us, as to why he feels like his application is complete. Once we deem the application complete, then we can schedule a public hearing. But let's get the facts from both sides, because it's not very often that we have an applicant before us that's relying on the city to coordinate and make all the designs happen. So that would be my motion, or my intent, that we should table and not schedule the public hearing until we get those reports. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. So with that, Charles, I think the intent, from what our understanding of Jeff's thought there, is we have, understandably, we've had a lot of staff members that have been part of the project, so perhaps it's a staff member, the most knowledgeable staff member, via a report and in person, to have conversation, to ask questions during our next gathering might be a good way. Obviously, a report helps as well. We can review during our packet time as well, and for members of the public and any additional information. It's odd. This is not a typical scenario. Of course, we're learning. So yeah, I guess that's my final thought. So, Jeff,
if I may put the opportunity, if our council liaison has anything he'd like to share, I would love to hear what he may have, and I respect if he would rather not comment, but I think it'd be a great opportunity to hear from our liaison.
Mr. Chair, is that okay?
Mr. Hatch, if you would like, sure.
I would, and I have to be, somewhat guarded on my comments. I think the City Council is very clear that your role is exactly what you're debating here, okay? And from my own personal perspective, I think the strategy to delay and get information in front of you is sound. I can confirm that the intercreditor agreement is being processed. My understanding is that that will appear on the council agenda on November 17th. So we will have whatever decisions rendered at that time, and I want to be clear that no decision has been made. We're still asking a lot of questions where our attorneys are engaged, and the council has yet to render a position on that intercreditor agreement. So the debate on the council floor, I think, will result in a vote, and then we'll know for sure what the council's position is on the funding, which has been a real challenge. And I think I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you, sir. Jim?
Mr. Chair, I think it's always great to get more information. I just hope that we aren't, due to the frustration that either this board or the city council may have had with the delays in getting this left turn lane constructed. I hope that we're not piling on requests to the applicant about things that, frankly, the planning board, when they wrote condition number 9, probably never cared to get into any of those details. They wanted it done, and they wanted the school to pay for it, but there was nothing in those conditions about detailed plans of how the left turn lane was going to be constructed. So while I think all that information is interesting and it'll be illuminating in many ways, because I'd like to see how the left turn lane's going to look too. But I think we just have to be careful that we don't try to pile on information that the applicant has to provide us to determine the application complete, when a lot of that information, really we probably isn't essential to determine the completeness of the application.
Thank you, Jim. Any other thoughts or questions from board members? Jim, thoughts on a motion to move forward on this project?
Am I all set? Can I sit down? Or do you still need
Sure,
me up
you can sit, sure.
Well, I would like to see us at least vote on your initial suggestion, Mr. Chair. And in doing that, I appreciate what Jeff has said about the detailed information, but given the after-the-fact packet that we have all received tonight that's at least an inch thick, a lot of the probably most interested citizens have all the details that that we're looking for, except maybe the construction details. So I would move that we continue application completeness to November 18th, if we can fit it on the agenda, and also schedule a public hearing that night.
So Jim, your motion was, did you say November? Or
I did. If that's a bad date, I'll suggest a different one. December 2nd?
December 16th would be the next available.
December 16th.
December 16th.
All right, then I'll move that we continue application completeness and schedule public hearing for December 16th.
I'll second.
Second by Joyce. Any additional discussion? So, Jeff, do you want to?
I think we're missing an opportunity here to get further clarification on what's been asked or tasked or what's trying to be placed onto our city staff to complete a project that, would have always been constructed by the applicant and coordinated by an applicant, and I would really like to hear that. So I would not be in favor of scheduling the public hearing. You had a lot of great details of items that we should include to request to find the application complete, and I'd be much more in favor of a motion that included those. I don't have them written down, but let's go ahead and pass this motion through the floor and see what happens.
So, to continue discussion, knowing the involvement that we have from residents, giving the date for a public hearing, and if we choose to open it that date, I think getting it on the docket and providing that date, letting everyone know that we might open the public hearing that evening, and keeping everyone involved and informed, I don't think is a bad thing. But with this motion discussion, I would like to add that we request from the applicant the final construction drawings, cost of construction, the updated, so with the cost of construction, updated financial capacity, understanding the potential intercreditor agreement and I'm gonna say it incorrectly here, but was it the BPI? Is that the BPI? Understanding how that comes together, easements, if any, current schedule, permits, if applicable. And then on the city's side, understanding, again, consequences, if any, with not meeting a condition of approval as worded, as for this project. City staff at our meeting, and Councilor Hatch mentioned the November 17th City Council meeting where they're going to discuss the intercreditor agreement, and understanding that, getting a memo from that discussion. I think that's everything on my list. That would be a request for the applicant. Catherine?
There was the question of the contract zone. Would it be appropriate to get clarification then or at a later date?
No, let's request staff to get a determination specific to this particular project. We've had, as contract zone projects come before the board, we typically get a determination, we get an opinion from city solicitor, so that's a fine request from staff as well. Any other thoughts or discussion topics, I guess? December 16th, continue review, public hearing, these requested items, both for the applicant and staff. Can I hit upon what your question or concern of the request for? I think that's a fair question. I don't think there's frustration, or there's frustration, sure, but not in a sense directed to the applicant, I feel, with some of these requests. I think the reviews for extensions that the board's granted and reviewed, there's been a few of them, and I think initially the understanding or the expectation was it wouldn't get this far, we wouldn't be at this point, but I think learning from where we've been or how it's been reviewed, I think we need to take the additional steps to really understand further as to how it gets together. So that's a great question. We don't want to ask more from one particular applicant than we would from another, but I think where this is at with the level of work that needs to happen, and I think it's a fair ask. But that's.
I'm not offended by any of that, Mr. Chair, and you've explained it very well, and I can certainly see how other members of the board would want to have a lot more detailed information, so I'm fine with that.
Jeff?
So, Mr. Chair, with that, as we bring that in, and I guess another question for staff, right? We can't research on our own. The applicant has come before us with a request to make an amendment. They're requesting an amended date. Can the board take this information? Like, to me, the BPI funding and the inter-credit agreement, it doesn't matter to me where the money comes from. It's they need to prove to us they have the money and technical capacity, which we seem to be lacking, right, to do this. And can we modify the condition of approval? Because they're opening the door. They're opening the door saying, hey, we want to modify our condition of approval by changing the date. Can we as a board say, hey, we're modifying that date, but we're also modifying what the term works with and what financial demands are or requirements are? So we've learned a lot from, unfortunately, what we thought was fairly solid language in a condition of approval number 9. And we've adapted that in a lot of our conditions of approval now. Is this our opportunity? Can we go through and tighten up condition number 9 because they're requesting an amendment? Is that something in the purview of this board as we work through this review to tighten up some of the holes in interpretation of verbiage that was chosen?
I'm going to let staff respond as well, but I'm going to say pertinent to condition 9, yes. as long as condition 9 doesn't modify another condition, or, lack of a better term here, create an additional condition, but it has to be within the confines of condition 9. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what we can do is provide some guidance around the planning board's purview. I think that's the question the member's asking. In terms of what the application is before you, it is an amendment to the approval condition specifically. So can that change between meeting to meeting after conversation once the application is accepted? Yes, I think that's kind of the natural review of a project. But for what the application itself is asking for, it is that one request to that amendment. So that would be a conversation. But I think what I can come to you for that 12/16 meeting is some clarity on, what is the purview of the board, especially in these particular instances of an amended site plan that's focused on the approval condition. I think that will kind of help guide you in your decisions.
May I just request, since Catherine brought up the point, we're going out to the city solicitor for our rights and what rights the applicant has with the contract zone, whether it can be, what the status is of that. Can we ask that same city solicitor about what our rights are to modify things other than what's applied for? They're applying for a date, but can we modify anything in condition number 9 so it's very clear when somebody says work with, what the expectation of the applicant is to, coordinate the construction, pay the engineers, that we don't have to have city staff out there directing day-to-day operations. I mean, can we find out from our city solicitor what our rights are to amend that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And to add to that, just add clarity. We are focused, we have some additional information we're looking for, but again, pertinent to condition 9. That's the focus. It's not beyond that. Condition 9 specifically. Okay. Any other discussion items? Okay, so motion made by Jim, seconded by Joyce, to continue application of completeness review to December 16th with a public hearing with the requested items of the applicant and city staff. All right, those in favor, Jim?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Jeff?
No.
Catherine?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Motion passes 4-1. All right, I think that covers everything. Ben, Charles, is there anything else you can think of? Okay. All right, great. Thank you. All right, so our next item on our agenda this evening are general correspondences. Ben, anything additional to add beyond our packet that we received this evening? For the record, we have some email and some photographs on projects discussed this evening.
Right, no additional comments.
Okay, great. And planning department updates and discussion, number 9 on this evening. I guess we've met our new city planner here, Charles Tettleman. Anything you want to say? Words of wisdom, encouragement?
No, happy to be here. Great second day in the office. I know that the department is looking to, has made an offer to, and we'll be having a new assistant planner joining us in late November as well. So we look forward to a full team in the planning department and excited to work, with the board, with city staff, and excited to get to know you all in the city as well.
All right, great. Any questions for Charles?
Does that mean, will Ben be with us for the next meeting, or?
So I believe Ben he's going to continue review, I believe, of one of our projects that we've been reviewing, 321 Lincoln.
Okay.
I think he's going to continue to assist on that item.
Yeah, and just to jump in, that was the original depth of North Star Planning's involvement with the Saco Planning Board was really focused on that one project, and it kind of got expanded due to some staffing shortages. So I think with the positions being filled and the department coming up to speed, our involvement is going to go back to that original engagement, which was really for that one specific project.
Okay, great.
Well, I continue to look forward to continue working with you. Thank you for your professionalism and guidance during this time, and I think that will be an instrumental role in the review of that. So I look forward to continuing that throughout that process. So thank you for staying with us.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Item number 10, any planning board comments? Jeff?
So I wanted to touch base, and I know we don't normally do this, and I don't know if it's in our purview, with regards to our site walk this morning. We had talked about a couple of items there, and the fact that we may have inadvertently not asked the Conservation Commission to be there. What can we do to kind of initiate that? I mean, I know it's not, the applicant's not here now. Can we have staff say, or can we kind of poll if we feel like we would like a Conservation Commission report from the site that we walked today? Or do we even go further and schedule a revisit so we can be there with them and look at the other corner that one of the citizens brought up this evening? I know it's another site walk, but I do think it's really key that we get the Conservation Commission's report, particularly on some of the larger trees that were on that parcel. It was a note by our landscape peer review. It hasn't been updated to the map yet, and the Conservation Commission usually has a pretty good take on tree survivability and species type, and these aren't just the traditional pine trees that they always say, oh, they're not wind hardened, they're going to blow down anyways, just take them down. I would like to get a little bit of their feedback, because we obviously know it's a pretty dense site. So is it appropriate that we request staff to try to reach out and coordinate that, or should we wait until that applicant's before us again, and then we kind of look like we're delaying, saying, hey, we want to go back with the Conservation Commission? I don't know how to proceed with that.
Sure. I'm going to, I think Lisa Shannon was our Conservation Commission liaison. Is that my understanding? So I guess my first request would be to see if we can request the Conservation Commission to have a site walk with the applicant. And I think they've had site walks in the past on projects without the board. So I don't think the board has to be there. The area in question, that is an item that we need to address in some fashion. Thank you, Ben. But I think perhaps maybe the concern, or the big picture is getting Conservation Commission to do a site walk with the applicant before their 19th meeting so we can get a report from them. Do you think that's possible, Lisa? I'm not sure what their schedule's like.
So do you want me to reach out to Conservation Commission to ask them what their schedule looks like to see if they can meet with Jeff and Craig?
If they could, yeah. Okay. I think that would be great. And not to speak for the applicant, obviously they're not here, but I think they're both Saco residents, so perhaps it's not a burden for them to meet with the Conservation Commission. And then with that, I think a typical ask, our standard for the board, I think we would like, when we have a site walk, we for sure would like the Conservation Commission as well. So that's maybe an oversight. Maybe we were assuming that they would join us as well. Maybe we didn't make that clear, but I think we can go ahead and say that. Whenever we do a site walk, let's invite them along for sure. Yeah, is that?
So do you want to have this next site walk with them and have the board attend again? Or are you looking more for just the Conservation Commission to meet with the applicant at 42 Ferry?
My biggest concern is getting, at their convenience, at their soonest convenience, the applicants and the Conservation Commission with them. I think extending and maybe we can confirm with our new city planner, but extending the request, extending the invitation backwards back to the planning board, if they would like to join that walk as well, seems to make sense. We could do that if board members could join that meeting, but let it be a specific Conservation Commission walk and not a planning board walk. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And we can confirm that we can do that, but Catherine?
Does that have to be noticed again?
The Conservation Commission would notice any site walks that they have, right?
Yep, I did invite them for the 2 that we scheduled tonight. I added them to the list, and I believe Emily may have reached out to Hoke to find out what the schedule looked like with them.
Okay.
Oh, I meant, does the public have to be noticed again?
I'll have to check on that. I'm not sure if Conservation Commission is the type of commission that has to have public notices for site
Yeah,
walks.
it's unclear, because usually the way it's written in the ordinance, again, new, so some leniency there, please. It does appear that it's at behest of the planning board, so usually it's in conjunction with it. So if I would caution against, having the Conservation Committee host it, and have planning board members open to attend, because in that case, you'll be moving into that territory of, you have planning board members if 4 of you show up, I believe it was supposed to be noticed, and it could be a problem. If it is something, I think we can look to see if we can get it on the agenda. I think what Lisa and I can do is follow up to see if the Conservation Commission can do that. I think if they were to schedule their own, if they needed to notice it, they would have to make that action themselves. Otherwise, the most that the planning board can do would be to schedule another site walk, which might be, unnecessary, might be just a learning moment to say, let's just bring this to the Conservation Commission, just as a meeting, and if they want to do a site walk, if they want to see the site, then we can do that. But I think just order of operations, at this point, I think to have the planning board and the Conservation Commission, that ship may have sailed unless we were to do another site walk, which is unordinary. But if one of the results of this morning's site walk was that the Conservation Commission should be included, let's get it on their agenda. Let's get it on their agenda. If they want to do a site walk, we can work with you and the planning board, or you and the Conservation Commission to get one scheduled, or we can just schedule it through the Conservation Commission. So short answer is, we can look into it.
Thank you. I think we're still, most important big picture is getting the Conservation Commission out there. We did have that. We did have a question today about a particular area. I'd like to see in the big picture, we gave the applicant direction, questions, requests to get us some more information. I guess I'd like to see that before we go back out for another site walk, and I'm trying not to talk too much. We're not site planning the application here without them here, but that's, I'm hesitant to schedule another site walk with the Conservation Commission because we didn't make one, because we didn't get a chance to invite them, especially if they can go out there on their own. The ordinance lets them. I guess I'd prefer to do that, but.
Mr. Chair, I would concur. I mean, they're almost like a peer review for us. They're not an authoritative board. They're doing a peer review. They could go, it sounds like, at any discretion. And it might be best if we don't attend. The area in question that we were questioned about missing, I felt like we were pretty close there today. We walked the majority of that site, and they did say they would be providing photos. So let's maybe just review those photos. And we also we asked questions on the site that the applicant's bringing us some data for some of those areas. So let's wait until we get that data and the photos, and then if we still have concern, it might be very, very appropriate we do a second site walk. But I agree, let's get the Conservation Commission out there at their earliest convenience. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, any other planning board comments, questions, concerns? All right, well, thank you, everyone, again. We will move to adjourn at 9:50 p.m. Thank you, everyone.